Welcome to the Fly Nubian Money, where we help you master your mindset and maximize your money. It's your girl, Constance Carter. I am your host for today, and we have a super duper important topic to talk about today. Y'all, a viral video shows a Baltimore teacher. This is not even funny. I shouldn't even be laughing. It is, but it ain't. But it shows a Baltimore teacher arguing with a student. The student appears exhausted, and both are speaking inappropriately to each other. One comment in the video says, 30-year veteran high school teacher here. Many of these kids are out of control. They're rude, they're disrespectful, they're vulgar, and they're hypersexualized. Note, I said many, not all. They have no discretion, and they do not care about the line between adults and children, staff, and students. I'm sure that the teacher has had enough. Were her actions acceptable? Maybe not, but based upon my experience, totally understandable. Teachers are not robots. But here joining me today is Miss Athena. Athena is a CPA and a wealth coach. And we have Miss April Sampay, special guest with us today. And she is an entertainer and a real estate professional. All right, y'all. So we're going to roll this video and then we're going to talk about it.
I'm ready. I got a mother that slap this shit with your long titty ass.
Go get it. Come on. You fucking second face bastard. Suck my dick.
Say it again.
Suck my dick.
Your big ass. Your titties long. Look at it. You ugly as shit.
Just like your mother. Just like your mother.
Better than you, bitch.
I know.
Look at you.
I know she
big
did.
ass hoop on your
I know.
body. You
I know.
ugly as shit.
I know.
Look at
You
you.
wish you looked better. You wish you did. You did. You did. I know. You dick don't work because you don't have one. You don't have one. You don't have one. You don't have one. Take your pussy ass on. Suck my dick and go hit on, bitch.
Why did you drag it like that?
Go hit on.
Ugly as shit.
Your mother ugly and your grandmother.
Your grandmother ugly.
She did, so I don't know. She did. She did. Don't worry about it. She did.
Yeah, she did.
Your mother, your mother, your mother, your mother, your mother, your mother, your mama, your mama, your mama, your mama, your mama, and your dead father bastard. Bye. Fuck you, whore. Fuck you, whore. Take your nappy head on. Take your freckles ass on with your no ball bastard.
First of all, when he called her long titty, he lucky he didn't get popped in the face. That's all I'm saying. That's where the disrespect stopped with me. You gonna call me a long titty? Son? Come on now. Athena. This ain't even funny. This is not a laughing matter, you guys. What are your thoughts, Athena?
Okay, a part of me feels bad because a part of me is laughing a little bit because the ratchicity is high in this video. The ratchicity is high. So a part of me is laughing, but it is a very serious matter. My first response or reaction to watching the video, I kept thinking, you know, I can understand teachers getting frustrated because they're underpaid, overworked, and all students are not the best to deal with. I feel like a lot of parents can barely deal with their own child, much less you dealing with like how much, 20, 30 students in a room. That is a lot. However, the way she responded was not appropriate to her role. Like, you talking about dead parents and grandmas. Granted, the student is highly disrespectful, okay? Highly disrespectful. I feel like she should have like birdmanned him and said, put some respect on my name type of thing. You know, give a suspension, give it attention, you know, just nip it in the bud. But I felt like she had time today and she clearly let him know that.
My question is, does suspension or detention matter anymore? Right? You know, I remember when I can't say you all because I'm probably, I could be the oldest in the room, but I remember as a young whippersnapper, if you gave me detention or I was suspended, it was a problem, right? Now they're like, oh, good. I don't have to learn today, right? And so I felt sorry for the teacher because I felt like she really needed to get that out. It felt like it seemed as if it was kind of festering for a while and those kids were getting on her for a while and she just needed to let it out. However.com, to your point. You do not need to bring up that baby's dead parents or anything else for that matter. That is just unacceptably unacceptable.
Yo, these kids bad as shit. I don't care. And if you could not pay me enough to be a teacher in this day and age. But what do you guys think kind of brought up the confrontation? What could lead to something like this? What, she told him to sit his bad ass down? What you think, April?
It could be a number of things. I mean, in this day and age, you could have just said no. I'm sorry. But in this day and age, you tell a child no, and all of a sudden the whole world just falls down. So she could have said no. She could have said you had the wrong answer. She could have said, get out of my classroom. She could have said, get off your phone. And it's probably just that. Get off your cell phone and focus on the class that I'm teaching.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
This is just really unacceptable. To your point, yes, these some badass kids.
And it could have been just you don't know the amount of fights that happen when a cell phone is taken from a child. It's unbelievable. And I've heard some really vicious stories about you taking a cell phone from a child and they just absolutely go ballistics. I've seen it. I've seen videos. But let me ask you in the audience, because you know this is a dialogue and it is not a monologue, and it's just not a dialogue between all of us. We want to include you in the conversation. What do you guys think? Do you think this was unacceptable? Do you think the teacher was in the right? Do you think the teacher was in the wrong? Are you of the mind of Athena? Yeah, I'm tired, but she does have a responsibility. She went a little bit too far. What would you have done in that situation? And that's a question I want to ask you, Athena. What would you have done in that situation?
If I was a teacher, if I was a student?
If you was a teacher, because we all grown here.
Okay, so listen, I have two sides. I'm trying to figure out would I have been the angel or would I have been the devil in this situation, because the angel in me is like, you know what, let me calm down. Let me call someone on the what's it called? Walkie-talkie, have them come and take the student away at detention or something. Now the devil in me is like, listen, let me get you together all quick. Although I would not stoop so low as to bring anybody's family members in it, because at the end of the day, no matter what happens, they're going to look at this footage. I'm sure she lost her job. I'm sure this did not go over well. She
in Baltimore. I don't know. She in Baltimore.
She might
need some folks like that.
But I'm sure this didn't go over too well for her career. And if she's at that job, that means she needs to be there. She needs that check. So I think I would have tried to at least calm the situation down, or have someone come facilitate me. Or if I just can't, I'm sure teachers have some kind of stressful, I hope they do, because it's a stressful job. If I needed to have another teacher or an AP or someone to take over, that is what I would have done. I remember in high school, and I went to a very rigorous high school. Like, no one got through that entire program without at least one panic attack type of thing. And I remember there was this rest in the classroom when we just had an AP assistant principal come down to the classroom to calm things down. I remember being frustrated in class and gathering my things and going to the assistant principal also and saying, look, I can't do this today. So I think there are a lot of alternatives available to us. I just question if the frustration that particular teacher was feeling, is it really the bad kids, or is it just that whole system of teaching in America? Because that's something we need to discuss.
Oh, for sure. We're going to get on that for sure. I promise you, y'all, if y'all just came in, we talking about these disrespectful ass kids. And I'm normally actually biased towards the kids, because I do believe adults should be adults. But I tell you what, if you call me a long titty bitch, it's gonna be some flowers bragging and some slow sagging and some flowers bragging. I promise you, call me a long titty bitch. It's gonna be some consequences and repercussions up in this motherfucker.
Can you say that louder for the children in the back? Because I'm gonna tell you what the problem is. The problem is the kids in the back. Okay. The kids that are in the back were the ones who were making all the noise. And they're the ones who are egging on that kid. Do you get what I'm saying? They're egging on the child who is trying to fight with the teacher. So, and Constance, I think we lost her for a second. Mm-hmm. So you ask, what would I do if I was in that particular situation? number one, I would probably get on the walkie-talkie, press that. I don't know if they have like a little button on the wall anymore. If they still have that, that's one of the things I would do. While I am waiting for somebody to come, oh glory. Oh glory. I'm going to give it to you all the way right. I'm going to make sure that you feel. I'm going to make sure you feel it. And sometimes you do have to maybe put your hands on a child. I don't know. Shoot, like I would want to slap somebody's kid. But the problem is, I'm going to tell you, that's why I'm not a teacher. God bless me.
Under the jail. You will be under the jail.
God would bless me for not being somebody's mama. And or a teacher. Okay, because there's no way in hell I could be a teacher. But I will say this: I would definitely have that child's parents in that classroom on a regular basis, because that child's parents would need to see what's going on. So of course I was joking. I would want to slap the crap out of the child. Don't get it twisted. That's not a joke. I just wouldn't do it. I would want to. I just wouldn't. But I would definitely have that child's parents in that classroom on a regular basis. And if you're not coming to the classroom, your child is not going to be in my classroom. Amen. That's
Amen. Where's my tambourine when I remember that I do have friends and that were our teachers and guidance counselors, and know of people who have done teaching, even if substitute or for a brief period of time. Everyone has always told me that they have felt or have experienced moments where they wanted to harm the children in the classroom, because even if it is at a good school, it doesn't even need to be a situation where, you know, the raticity is high. The disrespect, that's your favorite word, raticity?
Yes, everybody put raticity in the chat. I'm going to need y'all to put raticity in the chat. That is our word of the day. Use it at least 4 times.
Okay, a high audacity of ratchetness, raticity. So I remember, but I remember them telling me also that the parents don't care, that any other situation that would remedy those situations are really not available. I remember them telling me that, to the point where my friends had to buy pads, tampons, soap, basic hygienic things, and keep in their classroom, because parents are sending their kids with no food, no snacks, all of that. So even in some cases, reaching out to the parent, it does nothing, because a lot of parents treat school like daycare.
Oh, of course. You think, okay, first of all, we talked about it being Baltimore County Public Schools, okay? If you've ever been to Baltimore County Public Schools, I have nothing but respect for those teachers. But then you also have to look at, in a lot of inner city public schools, a lot of those teachers are very young and fresh out of college, right? They don't want to teach. The seasoned teachers don't want to teach in the inner city anymore, because it's too much work and they don't want to deal with the children. So they end up going to either private schools, or they go to schools in the suburbs. That's where they go work. So you end up having a lot of inner city public schools with just a lack of knowledge from the teacher, a lack of knowledge from upper management, meaning the principals, people who just flat out don't give any damns. And so, yes, I feel very bad for those teachers, but there has to be something that we put in place to make sure that we are pouring into the kids, because then you end up having a whole bunch of kids like this and a whole bunch of kids with these problems. To your point, you have kids who are coming to school with no pads. You know what? That's something that we need to, that's a conversation that I would have had with the parent in the beginning. Where are you? What do you need? You know what I mean? Let's talk about it. I want to make sure that your child has a great experience this year. Financially, if you need, like, what do you need? Because that way I could potentially go out and try to raise some money or do whatever I have to do in a situation like that. I mean, and there's so many different programs that are out there. We just don't care. And it's not fair to who? The kid. You see that teacher, to your point, just was like, today is the day I have the time.
Somebody gonna get this. Somebody
getting
smoke, and the first one that ruffles my feather gonna get all this smoke today, because I didn't had it up to here. I didn't had enough. I do want to talk about, and to both of your points, I do want to talk about both of those things.
Wait,
about
huh? One of the points about beating children.
Well, I didn't hear that part, but
Oh,
I
okay.
will fight it. Somebody did, you know, and I'm gonna go to the comments too, because somebody did say that's a lawsuit, respectfully, Constance. And that's the reason, ladies and gentlemen, that I am not a teacher, because I will put hands on a child. I promise Jesus Christ on the cross. So you guys are here listening to the Fly Nubian Money. It's your girl, Constance Carter. I'm here with Athena and our special guest, Miss April Sampay. Now, listen, we want you to subscribe to the Fly Nubian Queen right here on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. And every time we go live, we want to make sure that you're notified. So text the words Queens, Queens, to 87948. Again, Queens, Queen. Don't forget the S, to Fly Nubian Queens. And don't forget that we are now on Spotify. So tune in Monday through Friday at 1 by searching Fly Nubian Money on Spotify to catch all of our conversations. And if you want to get your money right and your money tight, go to the flynubianmoney.com and try our free financial resources, courses, and much, much more. Now, listen, I want to look at these statistics on these slides because I think it's extremely important that we understand where not only the students are coming from, but where the teachers are coming from. These teachers, y'all, are overworked. Look at teacher burnout. 44% of teachers leave the profession within the first 5 years. That's from the National Education Association. Student behavior. 85% of public school teachers reported that student behavior problems are interfering with teachers. Support for teachers. Only 32% of teachers feel that they have the adequate support from their school administration. Policy stats. According to the U.S. Department of Education, only 20% of schools have comprehensive behavior. 20%. Ooh, with all these badass kids, only 20% of schools have comprehensive behavior management programs in place. And funding disparities. This is huge. Schools in high poverty areas often receive less funding, impacting resources and support available. Now, I need to address this real quick because I did a TED Talk. I don't know if you guys saw it. It's called Google That Shit. And it's a great, excellent TED Talk. I talk about closing the wealth gap. And we spend, I think, $2 billion more in schools, in your white schools than you do in black schools. It doesn't mean white kids are inherently smarter. Black kids are inherently dumber. It doesn't mean that they're better and our kids are worse. It means they have access to more resources. And let me tell you this all goes back to racism, in my opinion. I really do believe that, because if this were affecting white kids in this way, there would be no way that the public schools would be in the condition that it's in. We all know that the way that schools get their funding is through property taxes. Now, if they were equally distributed across the board, where every school got equal funding, everyone would have equal education. But because you have majority of white kids who are getting the majority, the good lion's share of the money, white people are good with that. But what it also does is it weakens our national security, because now we got to go and hire people from out of the country to come in to do our jobs that our kids aren't qualified to do. So now you bring in all these foreign people because you are so caught up in keeping certain people oppressed and certain people in power that we're actually losing our power. And this is the direction that America is going and has been going. And I believe race has everything to do with it. What do you think, Athena?
Race always has everything to do with it. And you're right. Most of the funding from school comes from state and property taxes. Now, the federal government does give some money, but not nearly enough when it comes to even spending on war and other things that we don't even need to be spending on, honey. Because if you can get cut a check, our students, our children should be able to get cut a check, right? Our student loans should be able to get cut a check for, okay? When it comes to teachers, the other thing that makes me sad is how much they get paid, right? Teachers on average earn 24% less than comparable college graduates, according to the Economic Policy Institute, right? And also the national average beginning teacher salary is $44,000 a year. All right. So especially in this economy, you have to budget your whole life after taxes. What is that, $3,000 a month? And they probably took out a student loan to go to school. So you take that out. What rent is looking like. So the frustration of not even getting paid enough to deal with the high levels of disrespect, especially in financially low socioeconomic areas. The other thing I want to say is that is something, as we talk about going into this election cycle, there's this huge debate around immigration and how we're treating that. And, you know, with immigration, is usually two camps. There's people who get bussed in here, get cut a check, and start their life. I wish it was like that for me, but I wasn't in no cut a check camp. I wasn't like, you have to get your H-1B visa and work camp. So what this country is it goes all back to capitalism, which is heavily racist in itself already. The government don't really care about us, right? Immigration is for business owners. They want a cheap labor force and a specialized labor force, right? So to bring this back to teaching, my friends who are teachers, guidance counselors, were telling me, and I live in the state of Florida, right? Instead of raising their salaries to a decent wage, right, or increase, because most, on average, I think the average salary of a teacher has only raised 9% in the span of 20 years. Okay, 20 years, 9%, right? That's not keeping on with no type of inflation in any way, right? Adjusted for inflation, teachers today are getting paid 5% less than they were 20 years ago. So what they're doing is they're having programs where teachers from foreign countries like Korea, China, elsewhere, come over, take a lower salary, and to do that work instead of paying the teachers here. So what we're having is, not only aren't you, because I can understand if you go to college and the teaching degree was free. So not only you have to pay to become a teacher, to teach the youth, you're not being paid enough, you're not being appreciated. And they're saying, well, if you don't like how it is, we're just going to get, Ling Ling, come fill your position and keep it pushing. Right. So what resources teachers have?
For $40,000 a year, who want to go to work and be abused every day by these badass kids?
Can I take it one step further though?
Yeah.
I think it's our fault. And take it how you want, but when it comes to the money that's coming out of our pockets every year, we're the ones who pay their salary, right? Now, if it comes down to who we want to see play basketball, and no shade, I mean, listen, yes, of course, with how many people they can pack into an arena, they deserve the money that they get. But we're not putting them on the level that we need to put a teacher. We're not talking about how teachers deserve to get the money that they need to get, that they deserve to get. I mean, if you think about it, back in the day, teachers were looked at with respect. Teachers were appreciated. Teachers aren't appreciated now. They're just like, oh, you're just the teacher. No, that's the reason that your child doesn't know how to read. That's the reason. And so one of the things Constance was talking about initially is, it being a racist thing. And it's funny because usually I'm sorry to say, I don't agree with anything that Constance ever says ever. And so that was one of the things that I agreed with. But I look at it from a different perspective. I look at it like, for instance, Prince George's County, Maryland. It is a very, very high income area, right? Is money just being put out all over the place, but yet their high school dropout level is on 1 million compared to what's Montgomery County. You look at it down here. I live in Augusta, Georgia. In Augusta, Georgia, there are two major counties. One is Richmond County, one is Columbia County. Richmond County is the Black area. Columbia County is the quote unquote white area. Richmond County's taxes are higher, yet The school levels are progressively lower. It's the same way in Prince George's County versus Montgomery County, and I'm sure a lot of other counties across the board. Why is that, and where is that money going? That's the conversation that we need to have. We talk about money, and it's from a money perspective. We are not telling people, we're not focusing on where the money is going, how the money is supposed to be properly allocated. Why? And I think that the parents who have teachers in the school need to be able to interview the teachers that are coming into the schools. That's just my opinion. But again, I thank God don't have children, because I'd beat somebody at least once a month.
Well, no, that's real interesting, because I happen to live in Prince George's County, and I'm still trying to figure out this shit. Yeah, because my kids come from an all non-Black situation, from the West Coast all the way to the East Coast. Now they have culture shock, and they got these badass kids. And I live in an extremely wealthy Black community. These people in my neighborhood drive Lamborghinis and Rolls Royces and Bentleys. And yet I take my kids to school. One day I was walking through the halls, and all I smell is weed. Everybody look like something.
Everybody.
Yeah, everybody. But what I do notice is the people who really have the money, they're putting their kids in private schools. However, they're still getting this tax money. So because I'm new here, I can't really speak on it. So I don't know, but I know that, it's a whole lot of craziness.
Why is that? Because that doesn't make sense.
But that's
if that county is so wealthy, how come
you got to ask April. April's from here. Why is that, April?
I'm sorry to put it out there. It's like that in every major city. Please don't act like that's not necessarily.
No. There's wealth here, but the schools still suck.
Because nobody is holding anybody accountable. How often do you see the parents of these children going into meet with the board of education? How often does that happen? No, everybody's too busy driving their Porsches, driving their Rolls Royces, driving everything that they're driving, but they're driving their children to be ignorant. Okay.
Well, their children are going to private school though. So hold on. For those who just came in, I want to re-show this video, this ratchet ass. Wait. What you say, Athena? Ratchety? That was the word for the day? Ratchicity. I want to show this ratchicity.
That's the word of the day.
And for that to come out of the goddess's mouth is just so below you. But we're going to watch this ratchicity, because it is amazing what is going on in this school system. Let's take a look.
I got a mother that'll slap this your mom to the ass.
Go get it. Come on. You fucking second face bastard. Suck my dick.
Say it again.
Suck my dick.
Your big ass. Your titties long. Look at it. You ugly as shit.
Just like your mother. Just like your mother.
Better than you, bitch.
I know.
Look at
I know
you.
she
Big
did.
ass hoop on your
I know.
body. You
I
ugly
know.
as shit.
I know.
Look at
You
you.
wish you looked better. You wish you did. You did. You did. I know. Your dick don't work because you don't have one. You don't have one. You don't have one. You don't have one. Take your pussy ass on. Suck my dick and go hit on, bitch.
Why did you drag it like that?
Go hit on.
Ugly as shit.
Your mama ugly and your grandmother.
Your grandmother ugly.
She did, so I don't know. She did. She did. Don't worry about it. She did.
Yeah, she did.
Your mama. 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 And your dead father bastard. Bye. Fuck you, whore. Fuck you, whore. Take your nappy head on. Take your freckles ass on. With your no ball bastard.
I promise you this ain't funny. The second time I watched it before. It's not as funny as it was the first time, but I promise y'all, to Jesus Christ on the cross, if that Negro would have called me, said something about my long titties, it would have been some consequences of repercussions. I digress. I'm sorry. That just right there. But she did go too far. I do admit she did go too far, but sometimes these kids will take you there. I promise. Let's go to the comments. Let's look at the comments. Janelle said, what in the world is a teacher acting like this? Wow. I know, Janelle. Let me see. Let's see some other comments. Beyond Ratchet. Yes, that means ratcheticity. That's what that is. Well, let's go with another one. There are good teachers and bad teachers. If you don't love teaching, don't go into it. Great comment. And let's get one last comment. Bring in classroom video surveillance. That'll shut everybody up. So you said something extremely important, April, about parental involvement. There is an education crisis. Are teachers fighting with students more than teaching? But look at all the teachers fighting the kids.
Because they're fed up. That's all I'm saying. Like,
look at this little boy got a black eye because he didn't mess with the wrong one.
Right. He effed around and found out.
But parental involvement is so extremely important, and it doesn't matter on what level and what socioeconomic status that you're in. If I can be back on camera, it doesn't matter what level, what socioeconomic status you're in. If the parents aren't involved, this is the type of activity that you get. I promise you, the moment, exposure rates go down 30% when you have parental involvement. You got to look at the things that they do to the children as well. There is a book by Kwanzaa Jufu, the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys. And I'm a living witness to this happening. And my kids, again, they didn't go to a Black school. They went to a school where there were a lot of non-Blacks. However, and they never really had Black teachers until they moved out here. And I remember in 3rd or 4th grade, one of the teachers saying, that, hey, you should get your son checked out for maybe ADHD. And I was like, I'll consider it, but I knew he didn't have it. But it wasn't that I'm just that mom that is in denial. I just knew, just based upon how he acted, she just didn't know how to control her classroom. And then one day she said to him, she yelled at him and she said, when is your mom taking you to the doctor? And I read her rights, right? So what had to happen with each level that my kids went to is I had to be involved. And I only had to do this I didn't really have to do it for my daughter, because what I do understand is that teachers will treat your daughters better than they will treat a Black son. I already knew that going in, that teachers are automatically going to have less tolerance for my son, that they were going to, Black boys get expelled, I think 50% higher than anybody else. They get, they get diagnosed for, all of these things. And so I already knew going in. So I have 3 boys, they're all 2 years behind each other. I would only have to talk to the teacher one time, to the first teacher for my oldest son. And then everybody else knew, like when somebody else with the last name Carter coming in, we already know that we already know who their mom is and not to mess with them. We also made it a point in my family, the entire family, and this is when I was married and there was 6 of us, we went to every single parent teacher conference as a family. We were a force. They knew we were there. Now, everybody doesn't have that capacity. Everybody doesn't have everybody doesn't have the capacity to be able to go to parent teacher conferences, go sit in classes or anything like that. But don't you know, a simple email or text will let the teachers know that you are involved, and it would make such a huge difference. But these kids, I believe, are groomed this way from early on because they are already criminalizing our boys from early on, saying that they bad, putting them on timeout, expelling them, suspending them, and all of these things for very minor reasons. And by the time they get into high school and junior high, they're out of control because nobody cares, because their moms weren't involved, because they're busy. They might be busy working a job or two, and they simply didn't have the time, or maybe they didn't care to have any involvement with the teacher. What are your thoughts, Athena?
Listen, if I had a child, divine willing, and anybody had an issue with my child, I would be there. I remember my mother showing up once. And I was a good kid, so I didn't have any issues. But I was also like a naive kid, and I would just laugh at stuff. And we were in the choir and we had to sing. And one of the students were struggling to sing and didn't sound good. So I just laughed. I just laughed a lot as a kid. And that woman reprimanded me so hard, and my mother was there. And my mother came out of the audience and just read her life and took me, and we went home. And I think that is the type of fierceness that we need to have over our children, especially Black children, because especially if it's a non-Black environment, most of the schools, when I left Jamaica, of course, were non-Black schools. My high school And I've had experiences in both private and public schools. So I know the benefits, the pros and cons to both, because I've been in both private and public school settings. I will say this, I do think that private schools, there's more of an expectation of excellence and decorum between not only the teachers, but also the students in general. When I did go to private school, it was in a non-Black environment. I do think that as a group, and the overall message I want to get out is this: no one in America, if you are on coast, if you are on cruise control with your life, that time has come and passed. We in a new era right now. You cannot be on cruise control with nothing, not your kids, your money, your politics, nothing, right? Because these are the things that are happening. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. So I do think that when it comes to parents showing up for their kids and being present, that is the bar, the minimum, especially if it's public school, because they really don't care.
Yeah.
They really don't care in those environments.
No, Angela said, my sister in the comments, she said, my sister is a teacher in Oakland, California, and these kids are out of control, and the schools nor the parents back the teachers. And I can imagine that Oakland, listen, I'm from the Bay. Oakland is the wild, wild west, y'all. I don't know how anybody is actually still teaching in Oakland for anything less than $1 million. April, what are your thoughts? What about the parent involvement?
Okay, I have a friend who actually has a son who has IEPs. Okay, they started the child out on IEPs, I think, in like second grade, let's say, and they had some behavioral issues in, let's say, third grade. I'm making all this up because I don't know the exact age range, but let's say third grade. Okay, now they're in high school, and they had a parent-teacher conference and brought the parents in to meet with the teacher. And they also had a behavioral person in the room and somebody else. So it's like 3 people on the teacher side, the parents and the child. And they started talking about all of these really bad things that the child did. I mean, really bad things, to the point where the father is looking at the child like, when did any of this happen? And why didn't you all bring this to my attention? But let me go in on my son, right? So let me see this document. Pulls up the document. This was from elementary school, 3rd grade. They're in high school now. Why do you have somebody who's talking about behavioral health now when it's a good kid, nobody's ever had any problems, and the father looks at the mother and is like, I was about to go in on my child. And I was about to belittle my child. And so what he did was, in front of the child, went in on the teachers and everybody else for doing this and disrespecting his child that way. Number 1, that helps the child because that lets the child know my parent has my back. Number 2, it lets the teachers know, don't mess with my child. If you have a problem, I'm going to definitely handle my child. But in addition to that, don't put something on that kid that doesn't need to be there. And I think somebody was asking, what is an IEP? It's an individualized educational plan. And typically that's if they either have behavioral issues or learning issues. I think, I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if it's both behavioral and learning, but something in that realm.
Does the parents have to sign off on that? Because I feel like that can easily take like a racist turn.
But if you think about it, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
I mean, because they literally had all of these people around, like, we're going to have to sit down and talk to you about your child's issues. When the child this wasn't their first year in high school. This is their first year with this teacher. This teacher didn't know the parents, and the teacher really didn't know the child, but read this and said, oh, we're going to fix this now. We're going to nip this in the bud right now. No, nasty heifer. If you would have paid attention and you would have actually read like you're supposed to do as a teacher, then you would have learned that this is not the child to play with.
Yeah, to your point, my nephew had an IEP and he came to live with me. And you know, I was going to the schools, and he was having a hard time. And I remember when they took him out of those classes and they put him in the regular classes, and he started to do better because now he doesn't have this stigma on him. And then I remember telling his mom, we should probably take him out of the IEP, you know, for good. And she said, I ain't finna lose my money. That's what some.
Wait, hold up, they get a check with the IEP plan?
Some of them.
No,
I don't know about all of them, but my nephew was getting a check, and if he didn't have issues, she would no longer get a check. And so that was that situation right there. Mm-hmm.
So no, yes and no. I think it's more so depending on what level they're on, air quotes. So if they start out with probably something severe, I would probably say yes.
My nephew was just bad and needed a whooping, but that was that. But then also, you know, I want to piggyback on something you said too, because again, I've had to check teachers, and I know, and I want to talk about two different ways, because parents be checking teachers for no reason. I would have to check teachers. So I remember one time some teacher called my son stupid and dumb, and he came and told me, and I have 4 kids. And I was always on the wish method. I wish, you know, I just wanted to, when my daughter used to get bullied, I just wanted to go stroll the hallways, just punching my fists, right? Can I please just stroll the hallways, punching my fist, letting everybody like, no, mom, I don't want you to do. But my oldest son, he was like, mama, I'm ready. I'm trained to go. So I go up to a school, and we have a conference, me, his dad, and the teacher and the principal. We have a meeting. And after I got done reading this man his rights, he was literally shaking, right? And then my ex-husband, he was over there sitting like this, like he was mean. I got done reading his rights. And I told him, anybody with the last name Carter, you don't call them nothing but intelligent sir or a child of God, because you will not ever talk to my kids like that, right? So check them like I do, you know, the other teacher. Now, my middle son, the one under him, I remember he came home and he was like, Mom, my Spanish teacher is really racist. And I was like, what? Oh, hell no. Nah. Go up there, ready to go. And so we waiting on him to come out, and the teacher's like, well, can we just start? And I'm like, no, we gonna wait on my son. You know, I'm ready. And so my son finally comes down, and she's over there like shaking, and he comes down, and she's like, so, you know, your son won't pay attention, and he's playing with his friends. And I'm like, is that true, Kyron? And he's like, yeah. Wait a minute, hold on. What? She said, and I said, well, why aren't you moving his seat? Well, when I move his seat, he moves back. Is that true, Kyron? Yeah. You gonna get us up in here and you gonna embarrass us in front of this woman? You know I'm trained to go. So his dad was like, boy, you know, he started reprimanding him, and she had this little smirk on her face. She was happy. So we do have to, you know, we have to be advocates for our kids, but we do have to have those checks and balances, because everybody said I'm like my aunt. I have an aunt named Patch. God rest the dead. My cousin Dante, she would cuss me out. I'm younger than Dante. She would cuss me out over her baby. You ain't playing with my baby, you get cussed out. She would always be up at that school cussing somebody out behind something her baby did. But she ain't gonna let nobody disrespect her baby. And that's what a lot of these Black parents are doing. They are excusing their children to behave the way they do and allowing them to come into these schools and act like damn monkeys. Have you guys experienced that at all?
Well, I was going to say, but if you think about it, that's probably why we don't have that support. So what did you say? 32% of the teachers say that they don't feel that they have the support from, let's say, the principal or the parents. They don't have that support. They don't have anybody that they can turn to say, okay, who's on my side? So after a while, they're like, okay, nobody's going to have my back. Now I'm just going to bust somebody's head until white meat shuts. I mean, that's just.
But look, these teachers are not only frustrated with their kids, these teachers is acting a fool within themselves. Look, check this out. We got these teachers out here fighting each other. Check this out. Are teachers fighting with teachers more than they are fighting? These are actually teachers that are in the damn classroom cutting up. Now, let me ask you two a question, Athena. Are they just letting anybody come up in there and start teaching? Like, how in the world are these teachers fighting each other?
As quiet as it's kept. All right. So not saying that a lot of people don't go into teaching, the teaching profession on purpose to educate our kids, but I know a lot of people who end up being teachers were students who studied something else and couldn't get a job. And the state requirement mostly was like, all you needed was a bachelor degree. So a lot of people who are actually teachers didn't intend on going into that profession initially. They just happened to fall into that because they needed to work and they had a bachelor's degree. I do think that makes a difference in how you approach teaching, because, you know, if you're working a job that you don't necessarily like, but you just need it for the check, it's going to reflect in your approach and the quality of your work product. Now, I don't like that image of teachers fighting, especially two Black women fighting, because we just see that.
There was a white woman up in there too. There was a white
woman. Was a white thing. There's a white in there. Okay. I didn't see it. Okay, I didn't see it. You know, I didn't see the Caucasian in the mix, but
we try to keep it balanced on Fly Nubian Money
because they fight too.
Yeah, but she was a fighting Black teacher, but you know, I digress. Yes, but you know, back to even the video that was shown, you know, he was calling out her fupa. You know, he was saying, you know, long titties. Yeah, go ahead.
She bad build. She looked like a fridge box. All of that. It is really like a personal. And kids can be very harsh. Look, if you want to know the truth, ask the opinion of a child.
Right.
And you will get the unfiltered truth.
Are they letting just everybody up in here to teach? What do you think? What was your experience like growing up in Prince George's County in the schools? Because I remember you said
it was amazing.
But you weren't. But wait, you didn't have the
high school was horrible, huh?
Because you said your parents weren't really involved, so you had a whole gambling circuit going on in your school. So you didn't really have.
Right.
Okay.
I ran a casino in my lunchroom, and they had 4 lunches per day. So I had 4 casino nights during the day. It was wonderful. There was one teacher that I had an issue with, only one, and that's because she would keep sending me to in-school suspension, which meant I only had 1 lunch and I couldn't run my casino. Okay. It was the best. You can't get any better than that.
So that was your first entrepreneurial venture, the casino?
No, it wasn't my first. It was probably my third. My first one was when I was in middle school or elementary school. I used to get the string, the gimp, and I would sell little pieces of it for $0.25. So 1 piece is $0.25. You need 4 in order to make something nice. Amen. And so that's what I would do in back of class. So if you look at my experience, it was amazing. I didn't give anybody any problems. Yeah. So your question originally,
the teachers cutting up, fighting each other.
Well, I would actually talk about just the teachers in general. There was a gentleman, Mick something, who was saying, if you don't want to be a teacher, then if this is not what you want to do, don't do it. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. I agree with that because right now there's so many people, to you all's point, who are just getting a degree, can't find something, and the first thing that they do is they're like, well, I know I can easily get a job as a teacher. I'm going to stay doing this for 2 years until I find the job that I want, and I'm going to move on. Well, that does not benefit the child. And the school is just like, I want a warm body. That's all I want. I just want a warm body that can breathe and stand in front of the classroom. You don't have to be able to read. You don't have to be able to educate. Can you just show them the page number that they have to read? You get what I'm saying? It's just unfortunate. And I speak to so many young children, and I say children that graduated from college. They still kids to me. I'm sorry, I'm old. That recently graduated from college, and they say, I'm going to go and become a teacher. And the only reason is because you get time off for mental health. You get summertime off for mental health. No, you get summertime off so you can go to the beach. That's what you want to do. You just want to go to the beach. You don't care about anything else. You just want this time for you. It's a job that you can go in at 8 and leave at 3, and you're like, okay, the rest of the day is mine. But once you realize the work that comes with it, you're complaining the whole time. You're frustrated because it's work.
No, but that reminds me though of I don't know if you remember seeing that video of that young man, that white man, the white boy. He was in school and he was telling the teacher, "All you doing is giving us worksheets. Please teach us. We need to learn." And so, is that what's going on in these classrooms? Is these teachers are not teaching?
They're not incentivized to do more. Right. It's almost like, let me teach on cruise control. I do know in particular, my friends, they teach, they give more, they come up with lesson plans, they do all that stuff, but she went to school for teaching. Right. They went to school to be a guidance counselor. So I do think that makes a difference. And also it brings into question the quality of American education overall. Because I remember when I came here from Jamaica and I started in elementary school, and my first week at school, I was surprised because Jamaica is a poor country. How school is set up there, we're sharing long desks. There's no AC. Your parents have to pay to go to school, right? You don't have to be there. Like if you can't afford to go, you don't go. So the expectations were more higher and we had less resources. So I remember going to school for the first week. And I'm sitting there and I remember I'm like, man, and I came here when I was 9 years old and I was like, oh, like I learned this when I was like 5. So it was kind of shocking at the time because even learning in the list of schools in the world, America being a superpower compared to the Netherlands, compared to Finland, compared to other countries, we rank very, very low at overall education, which leads me to believe that it is by design, because for some reason our country does not want to invest in an educated population to think freely and make informed decisions to keep these systems running how they run it.
So wait, why would they want to? Because what does education in America, I can't say outside of America. In fact, I can say Jamaica, because in Jamaica, yes, they do teach. In Jamaica, a lot of times when people go to quote unquote public school, sometimes they're going away to public school and they're living on campus. Some of their campuses look like our colleges. So like when you look at why would we educate the people more? We're teaching them how to be workers. And you learn how to work when you get to the job. It's called on the job training. I want to add one more piece because you asked about my experience, right? So I am dyslexic. I wasn't diagnosed until I was in 5th grade. That's something they should have known earlier. In addition to that, I always did want to learn things. And so what I would do is I would skip school. When I got to high school, I would skip school and go to New York and go to the museums. I would go to Baltimore and go to the museums. I would go to DC and go to the museums. There was only one teacher, Miss Brookins. If you're out there, hey girl. Miss Brookins would take me on every single field trip to make sure that I learned something different, because she understood that I didn't learn the same way that everybody else learned. You can't put a book in front of me and say, this is it. You get what I'm saying? And I think that that's what's missing, a teacher that is going to give you the time and stop having, I think one of you said that it's like 40 people in a classroom. 40 people to one, that just doesn't make any sense. There's no way you're going to be able to give anybody any special treatment, special or personal treatment. It's just unfortunate. So I think that that's something that needs to change. I'm sorry. No,
that was good. That was great. I just want to say this. Business Insider has reported that in 2018, U.S. students ranked 38th in the world for testing results in math and 34th in science. Now we have all of this STEM going on, and now we have to bring foreigners. Again, that goes back to my theory in us losing our national security, because now I grew up in the Silicon Valley, y'all. San Jose, we have all the high tech companies. San Jose has turned into, and this is not to be, I don't want to say racist, but prejudice or anything, but San Jose there's mostly Indians and Asians there because they have all the high-tech jobs. So they're essentially importing people over to take on the jobs that Americans should have. And they're saying where are the black jobs? Who got the black jobs? I don't know. So anyway, this has been such a great conversation, ladies. Thank you guys for joining us. Again, this is the Fly Nubian Queen, and I want to tell you, make sure that you subscribe to our channel. Make sure that you subscribe to, or you follow us on every medium, every social media medium, and text the words Queens, Queens, to 87948 so that you can be alerted. Go to the website, flynubianmoney.com, if you want to get your money right and your money tight. Now, Miss Athena, I want to know what your final thoughts are.
Okay, so final thoughts. We didn't get to touch on this, but we are a solution-oriented platform. If you are a parent and you have children and you are worried about the quality of their education, what you can do is first getting involved at your school, get to know their teachers, join the PTA if possible. Look at alternative methods. Can you send your child to a magnet school? Can you send your child to a more competitive school? Can your child apply for a scholarship to a private school? Also, I also do believe learning begins at home. And that was a principle that my parents established growing up. And studies show that when parents take an active role in education at home, children do better. So you cannot leave your children on cruise control. This is not the day, age, or time. Clearly, teachers are doing fisticuffs right now. So you need to make an active involvement in your child's life and also understand what education is for. Lastly, and maybe we'll do an episode on this in the future, America is not invested in having an educated workforce. Instead of putting the money and the dollars there, America has said, you know what, we're going to just give the money through these H-1B visa sponsorships, which is how my family was able to get here. My dad was a geologist. So that's how we were able to do that. And that's how these tech jobs do, because America needs specialized workers. It is a shame because we basically have enough of the population to have enough to educate our workforce, so we don't need to do that. You can find me at wewealthwoman.com, where I teach ladies how to confidently manage their finances and create their own wealth. And I am Athena Gardner, and I'm CPA.
Yes, Goddess Athena. Thank you, darling. And then our special guest, Miss April Sampay. Give us your final thoughts, and where can we find you?
My final thoughts are: pay attention to your children. Make sure that you are involved in everything that your children do. Be a part of everything that your children are doing. And I would also add, make sure that you know who the teachers are that are teaching your kids. Why is it that when your kids are wanting to spend the night over somebody's house, you want to vet the parents, but you're not vetting the teachers that are teaching your children for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, for years at a time? So pay attention to your kids and make sure that you are giving the teachers grace as well as the children. Where can you find me? You can find me at all things April Sampay. Yeah, and if you need a house, call me.
Holla. Thank you, Miss April. And I'll just say this. I have 4 kids, and it is not easy being a parent, nor is it easy being a single parent. And kids are really with their teachers more than they are at home. They spend more time at schools with their peers and with their teachers more than they do with you. So it is imperative that we are involved. I'm telling y'all, 30% expulsion rates drop by 30% when there is parental involvement. They will expel your children at the drop of a dime if they know that you are not involved. And it doesn't even have to be joining the PTA, because you may not have time. A simple text to let them know, I got my eyes on you. Please just do a little bit, make a little bit of an effort to be involved in your children's lives. The other thing for the teachers, if this ain't your ministry, don't do it. Don't become a teacher if this ain't what you want to do, because you have children's lives. Come on with the tambourine. You got children's lives in your hands, and it matters. And that's why we see so many children going to the prison pipeline, is because we have a lot of teachers that don't care. But it all goes back to the parents who don't care. So if the parents ain't involved, teachers ain't gonna care. And then we have lost children. And then we have teachers telling children to suck their. So this has been such a great episode, ladies. I thank you. Please make sure that you watch us tomorrow every day on the Fly Nubian Money.
Word of the day is ratchicity.
Brought to you by Athena.
Brought to you by the letter A.
We'll see you tomorrow, same time, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Pacific, same bat channel. Thank you for tuning in.
Right? Is, one thing about investing that people falsely believe is they believe that when you're an investor, you just sit around and money just rains on top of you and you're just making money every day, all the time, no matter what. And what a lot of people don't know about investing is that investors take hits. Investors have to take lumps, lumps in their coffee, and it's not easy. It's very difficult to deal with that, and you have to have a disposition that can help you maintain your balance as you move forward. So all of you that are investors, which I hope all of you are, because every single study, every single research paper I can point you to shows that people who invest consistently, particularly in the stock market, have more wealth than people who do not. There is no study out there that says that you can work your way to wealth and do better than somebody who invests their way to wealth. There's no study out there that says that people who avoid real estate are going to do better than people who invest in real estate. There's no study that says that that employees do better than entrepreneurs on average. What happens is, though, that when you are taking that different path, when you're sort of building your wealth in a different way, it becomes more volatile, and it's the volatility that makes it hard. It's the ups and the downs that make it difficult. It's one of those things where when they say scared money doesn't make money, or nothing ventured, nothing gained, it's literally that part of it. It's that fear of change, that fear of adjusting and adapting. It can be somewhat exhausting, actually, to have to do that, right? So the easier route, for some of us, is that we're kind of trained to just do your job, get your paycheck, and everything's going to be pretty stable. The reason that I don't recommend that, in my view, again, I don't give investing advice, but this is not something I recommend as a life strategy, is because all the studies also show that approach that you think is safe and secure is not the best approach. Maybe at a time, maybe in the 1960s, actually, in 1950s and 1960s, there were times where you could get a job, say at General Motors or Ford or something, and you could just get your paycheck every week and do that for 30 years straight, and everything's going to be okay. And they're going to give you a gold watch at the end and a nice pension package, and you're going to make enough money where you can afford to have a house and a picket fence and 2-car garage and all that. Unfortunately, that's kind of gone because I believe that corporations, unfortunately, have reneged on their social responsibility. And I think that it's ultimately going to harm this country in a significant way. I think that corporations, because they're not properly regulated, these politicians don't really regulate corporations the way that they should. The corporations are pretty much operating in a way that is, in my view, unethical, because they should be paying workers more money. They should be giving them things like sick leave and maternity leave, because if you want a better society, you want parents at home with their kids so the kids don't grow up and become serial killers. The retirement packages, a lot of the pensions are heavily underfunded. So they will lie. They will make a promise that, oh yeah, when you retire, you're going to have this much money. But there's some companies who say, oh, sorry, we thought you'd have this much money, but sorry, we were lying the whole time. And then you have just the idea that your wages don't keep up with inflation. And also, last but not least, job security is not what it used to be. So even when you get that job and you feel like you're safe, you're not really safe. I hate saying it, but safety is something that has to be custom made. Safety has to be something where you understand what economic safety looks like, and you shape your life around economic safety. Do you understand what I mean? Let me know if you're following me. And so ultimately, I know I hit the ground running. I came in just because that's how I am. I've been up about 3 hours, and I wasn't in the 5 a.m. club today. I was in like the 5:58, 6 a.m. club. So I done got up and been thinking about things and and played virtual golf and played in the tournament. Got my ass kicked though, but I tried my best. And I got to work on my drive. Got to hit the greens in regulation. That's a problem. I did actually do a poker tournament yesterday. I don't know if you guys, I mentioned to you all that I love poker, not because I don't like gambling. Gambling is very unhealthy financially, but I like poker because it's a great game of psychology, strategy, and math. So I play online poker every now and then, and it's free. It's like something I subscribe, $25 a month, and I play people from all over the world. And so yesterday I was in a tournament with 106 people. and I got second place. Now I think I could have won, but I had to leave because we were having the book club meeting, so I had to leave my hand, and the other guy just kind of ate away at all my chips. But I got second place. How cool is that? So anyway, so anyway, let's hop back into this security thing. So financial security is something where, in my view, you have to know what it is and create it for yourself. You got to just know what that looks like. And I don't know if a lot of people really know that. And the question becomes, if you don't understand what it looks like, and the people that you are allowing to create it for you, like your job or the corporations of America, if they're not doing their job, then that leaves you very, very vulnerable. Okay. So generally speaking, I would say, now, what's happening right now, circling back to what's going on in the economy, is that corporate earnings are dropping. Inflation appears to be kind of shaky. We're not sure if we can control it. Also, the economy is not as strong as it was before. And even luxury brands like Louis Vuitton and stuff like that, they were selling a lot of stuff during the pandemic, but they're having a hard time selling things now, particularly to middle class people. So kind of buckle your seatbelt. All these declines in the market recently could continue on. You could be at the beginning of what could be a major crash. There are people who even predict market prices could drop to half of what they were before. And I would encourage you to just kind of make sure you prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And so I did a training called Stormproof Investing. I mentioned it before. If you want to go take a look, it's stormproofinvesting.com. So feel free to go to stormproofinvesting.com. All the materials are yours for life. All right. So speaking on that other issue about sort of that mindset between the investor and the person who chooses not to invest at all, one of the things about the mindset of an investor and the reality of being an investor, in my view, is there's a heavy psychological component to it that I encourage you to consider. That it's not just about what you know; it's about also developing a culture where you're applying what you know. And then also it's about developing the mindset where you can kind of tolerate and know when to make your move and when to be patient. A lot of times that anxiety and the fear that we feel, my wife's a therapist, so we talk about these things a lot. That's why we created the Black Financial Therapy Department in the Black Business School. That anxiety and fear is what leads to a lot of bad financial decisions. It's similar to, you ever see somebody who can't keep a relationship because anytime anything goes wrong, they run? They might call them track stars, where every time they see one red flag, they're out, they're gone, right? And so nothing really lasts. They'll have a great relationship for about 7 or 8 months, and then after about 7 or 8 months, they'll see a couple of red flags, and then they bounce out because they can't really fight through anything because the fear becomes so crippling that they're just afraid of being re-traumatized. So they just say, "I better get out of here before something bad happens." And that comes from maybe your experience, right? Maybe bad things have happened, or maybe you never really saw what it looks like to make a relationship last. And actually, there's an addiction associated with that. They call them love addicts. There are people who are addicted to the feeling of falling in love. They love, just almost like when you take a piece of gum and you put it in your mouth, and it tastes really good because all the sugar, and then you spit it out when the sugar is gone, and then you put another piece in your mouth. I used to do that a lot when I was like 7 or 8 years old, and that literally is a is an addiction, they say. So that and that's it. But then you contrast that, right, with people who are on the other extreme, who will see every red flag and go through every kind of piece of chaos in a relationship and maybe hold on for too long, stay in a situation that's too unhealthy, too toxic, to the point where I know people who have been killed because they stuck around, with somebody they shouldn't have stuck around with. This is a real thing. There's a lady who spoke at our convention a couple of years ago, Robin. I don't have her last name in front of me, but Robin, who died in Houston, her husband killed her, stabbed her 100 times in front of her daughter. And Robin she saw a lot of the signs that this man had become unstable, but in the tradition of really sticking it out and never giving up, she stood by him, and then eventually ended badly. So the middle ground is kind of what you're always looking for in, say, a relationship. Just like with investing, you're always looking for the middle ground. And maybe that's why I like poker, because poker is the same way. It's like the middle ground. In fact, actually, and I mentioned the poker tournament I played in yesterday. Well, did you I don't know if you all know this, but Wall Street started recruiting a lot of professional poker players because they said poker players know how to have the right kind of balance. They know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. Shout out to Kenny Rogers, right? They know how to maximize positives. Like when they see an opportunity, they know how to take it to the limit. But then when they see danger coming, they know how to get out of the situation before it gets too bad. Do you see what I mean? Like it's like that balancing act, right? So a lot of times as an investor, I think it's the same way for yourself. Knowing when to hold them, when to fold them, is I think an important part of investing, and kind of being able to say, okay, the market's reacting badly right now. Bad things are happening. I want to panic right now, but maybe instead of panicking right away, I can sit back and think. And maybe I can just process things for a little while and know that I'm probably not always going to make the right decision. It's very hard to make the perfect decision. You're always going to have regrets, right? On some level, but I want to minimize my regrets. Jeff Bezos talks about this. He calls this the regret minimization strategy he used that led him to go found Amazon. He said, "In my goal in life was to minimize my regrets in life." And so he felt that going after the Amazon opportunity would lead to fewer regrets than not doing it. Right. So so ultimately, sort of knowing that balancing act is really important, but then also just sort of knowing when it's time for you to walk away and give up, right? So you have a set of investments, and you have some investments that are doing really well. So you're going to have some dogs in there, and the goal is to make sure that the good outweighs the bad. That's the best you're going to get. It's just like a basketball game; you're going to miss some shots, and so knowing how to miss those shots and just sort of say, hey, you know what? I made some mistakes, some things went wrong, I lost some money over here, but I'm not going to dwell on it too much. I'm going to focus on building on the next opportunity. And also, when there's an investment I'm going to get away from, I'm just going to get away from it. I'm going to make my decision and then move forward. I'm kind of looking forward and up. I'm not really looking down and back a whole lot. The only time I look down, the only time I look back on mistakes is if I'm learning from those mistakes. Because even looking down and back is really looking forward and up. Like the only reason I'm looking down at the chaos I created by the horrible mistakes I made, and believe me, I've made horrible mistakes. You probably made horrible mistakes. If you haven't made mistakes, I encourage you to make more. And the only reason I'm going to look down at this this pile of blood that represents all the horrible mistakes I've made is so I can use that information to learn about the next move and the next step. Most people that become very successful at anything, just they kind of feel like they're stumbling along the way. I can tell you, I think I'm qualified enough to sort of present myself as a relatively successful man. I'm proud of that. I'm proud to be a successful Black man. That's very important to me. And I can just tell you that success did not feel the way I thought it was going to feel. It didn't. It didn't feel. I thought you'd be shining the whole time. I thought it'd be like, just every day the sun comes out, and every day if you're feeling great and everything's wonderful. No, it ain't like that. It sucks sometimes. It's painful. It's like, oh man, I'm confused. And but what happens is, here's what I've concluded. I conclude that successful investors are just successful people, which is the kind of similar in the sense like you're always investing, even if you're not investing money. So I hope that you see the connection. Even if it sounds like I'm not talking about money, I'm really talking about wealth. Okay. But what I found was, what helped me a lot was learning how to artificially create my own sunshine when I didn't have any, right? Knowing how to, create light where there was none, to be in the middle of a dark space in a tough time and still find artificial confidence that will get me through until I have something to really be confident and excited about, right? Or find artificial enthusiasm, to help me to hold me over until I got to the point where I had something to be, enthusiastic about. And that really is internal, and that really comes from something I heard Will Smith say one time, where he was just talking about happiness, and he said, nothing out there can make you happy. It has to all come from inside. And I never met Will. I sat with Will's brother Harry for many, many hours in Hollywood. And Harry was a great guy. And we pulled up in Beverly Hills, and he had this big old Rolls Royce or something. And Harry was like a financial guy like me. And also we were into the history of war. So we talked a lot about World War II, and we talked a lot about financial stuff. And he's a super smart guy. Like I really have a lot of respect for Will Smith's family, because they come from a really smart family. They're geniuses, really. And he looks just like Will. And so it was very strange talking to him, because I said, wow, I feel like I'm looking right at Will Smith. I don't want to be fanned out right now, because I'm a big fan of Will Smith. But anyway, I just remember sort of having these, listening, so when I listened to Will, I know I would hear him just say some things that I think are really worth hearing. There are really some things that, some wisdom that he's picked up from going around the world, dealing with all kinds of crazy situations, dealing with unbelievable pressure, having unbelievable access and success and wealth. that I think can really help you in terms of transcending and elevating. His consciousness level is very, very high, very, very high, and because it's a rare space to be in, in a situation where you can have anything you want, any type of girlfriend you want to have, any amount of money that you need to do whatever you want to do, to be able to do those things. And then what happens is you start to get into this rare space where you've got to figure out who you are and what you need in the moment and where to get that thing. And sometimes the people around you can't give it to you. Sometimes your situation can't give it to you. Sometimes your job can't give it to you. So you got to give it to you. And so this is where introspection really comes into play. And I think that that really helps you a lot as an investor, right? And so I would encourage you, as you're building your business, as you're building your stock portfolio, as you're building whatever you're seeking to build, develop a process. Everybody has to have a process. I have a reset button I hit every morning that helps me to get recentered. I'm not gonna lie, yesterday I had a really weird, disturbing conversation. There was a really famous person who called me on the phone and literally threatened to physically attack me if he saw me in person. He literally was like, if I see you, I'm gonna hurt you. And I'm not scared. I was like, okay, well, come on. I got security. They got guns. We can test that theory if you'd like to. But it was very strange. It was really strange. And I was like, huh, okay, all right, well, all right, okay. Is that what we doing? Is that how things, is that what y'all doing in the Black community now? Yeah. So anyway, so literally after that happened, I just told my wife, I said, Leah, let me tell you what just happened. And it was kind of one of those things where it's I guess when things happen and you see stuff, you just have to for at first there may be shock, and then you have to have a process, like whatever it is. And it may be failure. It may be you start your business and you try to make money and you literally lose money and embarrass yourself. Or maybe it's your relationship is giving you problems at the same time you're trying to conquer another problem. And I would encourage everyone in here to really figure out, like, what is my reset button? What is my process for me to get back to balance if the world kind of throws me off balance, or if the world tries to make me into somebody that I don't want to be. And so my process is every single morning I get up and I spend time by myself. And you know where I learned that from? I learned that from billionaires. I learned that from listening to Jeff Bezos, who runs Amazon. He said every morning he gets up and he doesn't start working in the morning. You know what he does? He'll like wash dishes. He'll just wash dishes and listen to the radio or whatever podcast or something, and whatever. And I do the same thing. This morning, my wife came downstairs and I was washing dishes and I was listening to a podcast, and then I played virtual golf and I just goofed around for a couple hours before I came in here. And what was interesting was that by the time I got to the point where I was ready to start doing business again, I was ready. Like I was, that's why I came in just sort of talking a mile a minute, because all these ideas are just flooding to me. This inspiration, like I'm truly inspired about today because I went through the process. But I can't say I would have felt that way, I don't know, a couple hours ago or last night. And so figure out what your process is. And I encourage everybody to look into things like mental health, meditation, wellness, things that will help you to be your best self every single day, because it's not always going to feel good. Success isn't going to feel good, and life is hard. Achievement is hard. Becoming wealthy is hard. And the other thing I've noticed about wealthy people is that you have to be serious about what you're doing. And unfortunately, most people are not that serious. Most people talk about things. Most people have a lot of conversations you know, about what they're going to do and who they're going to do it with and how much money they're going to make. And that's all fine. That's all great. But when you get into that rare space of people who actually get it done and start achieving things, you have to be really mindful of not letting things waste your time. Like, you have to really be clear that you want to work with other people who are clear. You're right. So to me, the clarity means that serious people should be working with serious people. So if you're a serious person, invest heavily in connecting with and working with and building with very serious people. And then if you do that, you can do amazing things. And I think even learning little things like one thing I learned, for example, is that if you are the CEO of a company and you're very creative, you may need a partner who is not as creative as you, but who's actually able to implement all your visionary ideas. Because sometimes as a creative, and I'm one of them, I'm speaking that way. I'm a creative, inspired person. So sometimes I'll have a vision, and I can't implement the vision, without my team, without people actually taking the vision and saying, okay, how do we just break this down brick by brick and help to make this thing real? Steve Jobs, they said, was really not a great CEO at Apple. That's why he got kicked out of the company. He got kicked out because he was a genius, but he didn't have the ability to really run a company from a functional administrative standpoint. It wasn't interesting to him. And so, anyway, what made Steve Jobs great was he hired Tim Cook. And Tim Cook is not a visionary. Tim Cook doesn't have any creativity. Tim Cook is just the guy that's like, okay, what are we doing? Okay. So he's the guy that the saying goes, he's the guy that can make the trains run on time. So when you build your company or build your business, and I think everybody in here should try to build a Black-owned business or get somebody in your family to do it. And I know if you're in the Prime program, maybe part of your Black-owned business starts with stock options and stuff, and that is a legitimate business, something that you invest in that makes money. That's a business. It doesn't mean you got to go work all day. That's a business too. And so I would encourage you as you build your Black-owned business to sort of think about those components that you need in order to develop the kind of solid infrastructure that you'll need in order to grow and survive and to thrive and to create opportunities for other people. That's my only thought for today. I have more thoughts, but I want to actually, I promised myself that I wouldn't talk your ears off all day. So if you have a few questions, you can put them in the Q&A section. I'll answer a few questions before we're done. Quick reminder, the All Black National Convention. I'm going to keep reminding you guys about it as we have updates. So I mentioned Dr. George C. Frazier is coming this year, who is a brilliant man that everyone should know and talk about. And also the team is still working to put together everything for the convention. If you want to get a discounted hotel room, you might want to go ahead and lock that in because I think the deadline is coming up pretty soon. And we're going to be at the Westin in Lombard, Illinois, right outside of Chicago. It's October 25th through the 27th. So feel free to go to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. All right. So let's see here. Okay. Next, first question is, to protect against the storm, what's the address? Oh, yeah, it's stormproofinvesting.com. Somebody type that in the chat for me, please, if you could. Stormproofinvesting.com. Also, I don't know where the team is in terms of the launch for the Black Math Geniuses program, but basically we partner with Asada Moore, who has educated Black children for 30 years. And also we combined her with our Black Millionaires of Tomorrow program. So we took what she was doing with Black Math Geniuses and connected it to Black Millionaires of Tomorrow. And so she is, if you have not seen Asada Moore, just know you're going to be blown away because she is one of those people that I admire and respect so much because she is like fiercely devoted to Black excellence when it comes to educating our kids at a high level. So if you got kids and you want them ready for the future, feel free to participate in that. I don't know exactly where the link is. I don't have a link. I'll try to find one and send it to you. But until then, just email support@theblackbusinessschool.com. If you want to just get ahead of that, email support@theblackbusinessschool.com and the team can connect you to the resources that Ms. Asada put together. And I'm telling you, these people are my heroes. These are the ones I get excited about. I don't get excited about all that election stuff. This is what gets me going because I see children in their transformation. Like I've seen children go through our business school for kids who were troublemakers, getting in trouble in school, having a really hard time, and now they've got $25,000 in their investment portfolios, or their mothers will email us and tell us, "Oh my gosh, he loves making money." Well, of course he does. Most little boys do. And so I would encourage you, like if you're having trouble with your child, introduce them to money. Like that money's a great, that's a great icebreaker in the conversation. I promise you. All right. So if you have a question, please put it in the Q&A section if you could. Let's see here. Where's Martin Rowland, the Negro naysayer puppet? Haven't seen him in a minute. Well, Michael, I try to leave my silly stuff out of class. I rather, because I don't want anybody to feel bad about your politics. I realize sometimes when I get too expressive of how I feel, it can make people feel alienated or like I'm shaming how you feel. And it's not true. I believe in freedom and openness and acceptance. And so whatever you believe is fine. Whatever you believe, I believe, and I love it. And if you love it, I love it. I love it for you. Just like even when you talk about secondary issues that don't relate to being Black, like, LGBT and all that, I just don't care who you sleep with, but I don't need to know who you sleep with either. That's and I think it's okay for me to say that. Like for someone to get offended by me saying that, I don't get that. Like, why would you be offended that I just told you, like, do what you want to do? Like, if you're freaky in the bedroom, go be freaky, but you ain't got to tell everybody. Like, I don't care about all. So anyway, Let me keep going. All right. And same thing. So same thing is true with politics, Democrat, Republican, all that. I do not fight other black people. And this is what I told that person. I said, I'm not going to fight another black person over politics, over Democrat, Republican. I don't care what you believe, but you're not going to tell me what to say either. That's the reality. All right. So let me keep going. Please give me more examples of B1 businesses or services. Well, let's see here. Hmm. You know what? There is a list of side hustles that you can start for under $100. And so there's a little ebook they put together inside the bookstore. So if you go to drboycebooks.com and search for the term side hustles, you can check that out. So feel free to go to drboycebooks.com. Just search for the term side hustles, and you can see what Dr. Lene Javette put together. She's our Dean of Entrepreneurship in the Black Business School. Christian says, one of the things I really respect is that you're self-funded. Yeah, that's important, because one thing that we don't know yet as a people, we've never learned, is that the person that has the gold makes the rules. The one who pays the bills is the one who decides what's going to happen. So even when you talk about celebrities, like, people think celebrities have power. I've never felt celebrities have independent power. The person that has the power is the person who paid the money to make that person into a celebrity. Celebrities are manufactured like products, no different from cans of Coca-Cola or Tesla cars or Ford trucks. You need funding to do that. And so so the thing about funding is that money is used for various forms of warfare. And also there is a thing such as called economic self-defense. Actually, the whole training called the economics of self-defense. You can probably search for it somewhere. It's out there. And so my point is to say that if you want to be free and independent, you're gonna have to pay your own bills. You got to find a way to be able to do that. And also you're gonna have to resist the temptation of letting other people conquer you with their money. Part of the reason we're colonized is because people who have more money than us suck us in, and they get us addicted to their financial nipple, so to speak. And so when they're the ones supplying the drug that we need in order to feel healthy, we become the drug addict and they become the drug dealer. And there's no situation where you can find a relationship where the drug addict has more power than the drug dealer. So there's only two ways you can get off the drug, or two ways you could be free financially. Only two ways, really. You can either A, have all the money that you need to do whatever you want, which is not true for most of us, including myself, or B, you can reduce your dependence on resources that are coming from people that don't share your values. So the Black Business School is funded by B1 people. It's funded by people who look at what we do, look at who we are, and they love what we are. They love us. They love us because we're Black, not despite the fact that we're Black. There are people out there that I'm sure they would give us money and tolerate us despite the fact that we're Black. And I don't want that. I don't want you to just tolerate the fact that I'm Black. I want you to love the fact that I'm Black. I want you to love the fact that I'm trying to be smart. I want you to love the fact that I talk the way I talk. That's a great feeling. You want to be encouraged to be more of who you are, not have people say, well, I'm going to let you in despite what you are. And that's what integration feels like to me. Integration feels like, it's like, oh yeah, we're going to let you in even though you're Black. It's like, no, you should want me because I'm Black. Don't you understand that we are the prize? I'm the prize. You the prize. You getting the prize, buddy. You're going to have to pay for that. I'm not just happy to hang around you. It's like having a friend, like think about it. Who would want a friend or a set of friends where they would only just allow you to hang out and none of them like you? That they just tolerate you. Those are not your friends. And but if you have low self-esteem and you don't see your worth, then you will go hang with those people. A lot of us maybe did that when you were little because you want to hang with the cool kids and you want them to like you. So you stop being who you are so you can fit in with the cool kids and laughing at stupid jokes and doing stupid stuff. And that to me is a self-esteem issue. That's that lack of self-worth is what keeps you from saying, nah, I'm not. If you can't accept me for who I am, then I'm out of here. And I think that's okay. I just really do. I think so really in the core of my soul, every ounce of my soul knows. I don't think I know that what we're doing in the Black Business School is epic, powerful, legendary, practically unprecedented. It's not replicated anywhere. It's incredibly impactful. I don't think that. I know these things. So no, being in this space is not, it's not something I'm begging people to do. It's a privilege. If you won't act right, we're gonna put you up out of here. That's it. Let me keep going. All right. So let's see. Okay. Can you speak to what it means exactly? Because I'm thinking that doesn't include bank loans, as Christian Ray. Well, what happens? Here's the deal. Okay. So let's talk about funding in general, just from a more generalized perspective. When you fund a business, you kind of have two major funding sources. You have debt and equity. That's it. Debt and equity. Equity means that the funder has some ownership in the asset. Debt means that they don't own anything. They just need you to pay a certain amount. They don't care about any of the upside, but they need you to make sure that you pay them no matter what. So there's the trade-off, right? So, and then when you talk about debt and equity, there's different types of equity, different types of debt. So if I put in some equity, it can be just me. Like I could literally put in my own financial equity, sweat equity, and just say, okay, this is the piece that I own. And then the bank is funding the rest. But then I could also raise equity. That means I could go and get investors and say, hey, can you give me $100,000 to help me pay this, build this company? I'll give you 10%, 5%, or whatever. And then on the debt side, that's where the banks typically, most of the time, don't really care a whole lot about exactly how you're running the company. They just want to make sure everything's stable and that their investment's protected. So they may put in, like with Robinhood, margin requirements to make sure that you're not going to just take the money and kind of run or whatever. But for the most part, debt is more comfortable than equity, in my view, because they don't get all up in your business. They don't tell you how to run your company. And so really when you're building a company, you kind of have to think about it in that way and also realize that even though equity gives up control, equity actually in some ways is safer than debt. Because someone who loans you $1 million and says, okay, make sure you pay us that $1 million in the next 10 years, they don't care if your business struggles or goes bankrupt or whatever. Whereas an equity holder has agreed to, take the lumps with you. They've agreed to make money if you're making money, but they've also agreed to lose money along with you if you're losing money. So equity holding is what they call risk sharing. You take on partners and other investors if you're investing in something that's really risky and you don't want to put all your money on the line. But typically, if you have an investment that or a company that's doing really well already generating great cash flow, and you need to raise money at that point, debt in many cases is the better option because like for example the businesses I'm associated with are pretty well established. They've been around for a while. We're able to do what we got to do. I don't really need any partners. I don't want any more investors, right? So when we need to raise money, we'll go to the bank, right? Because the bank isn't going to bother us. They're not going to say, well, you're being too black and you should stop doing this, right? So, but if it were a new venture, if it were something brand new and I don't know how it's going to work out, or it could easily turn into nothing, then yeah, having a partner helps because that means I'm not putting all the money in required to make this investment go. So when you're talking about funding things, the other mistake a lot of companies make, here's another interesting thing too. I'm gonna speak about this coin on both sides, and I hope I don't say it in the wrong way. So pay attention. So listen closely, and I'm gonna try to say it in a way that makes sense because I'm trying to form this thought here. When you're talking about building a business, you've got this issue in Black wealth that people don't talk about hardly at all, which they really should talk about more, and that is access to capital. Access to capital is one of the biggest challenges in the Black community that there is. If suddenly, if one of the I kid you not, here's one thing that would make me run to the voting booth. If one administration truly showed evidence that they were willing to truly push for Black people to have access to capital, where every Black person who wanted to buy a house could get $400,000 to buy a house, every Black person who wants to start a business could get $250,000 to start their business, etc., I would vote for that person. And even before paying reparations. And why is that? Well, because access to capital is pretty much access to opportunity. Access to capital is access to wealth. Access to capital allows you the opportunity to jump over that fence and go from being a person who consumes and spends and gives their money away to being a person who actually is able to build institutions, own property, own stock, and build wealth. Access to capital, access to capital, access to capital. So one of the biggest things that burns me up is that banks don't loan adequate amounts of money to Black people. Silicon Valley does not loan adequate amounts of money to Black people. They don't. They fund these crappy little white boy businesses that haven't made a nickel, that they have poorly formed ideas, and they'll give them $50 million and I'll see a black entrepreneur with a hell of a project that's already making money, that's already cash flow positive, that's already winning, and he has a hard time raising $100,000. That is a type of inequality that bothers me, that really doesn't get discussed by anybody. Maybe somebody's going to pick it up and start talking about it. So that's the one side of it. If you have access to capital, if you gave me a choice and you said, Boyce, which would you rather have, a check for $5 million or for somebody to loan you $1 billion? Oh, I'd much rather have somebody loan me $1 billion. Yeah, I got to pay it back. Oh, but you let me hold that money for about a month. Watch how much money I can make from $1 billion in a month. Just from selling. Those who sell stock options with us in the Prime program, you know how much money I can make from $1 billion. Literally, I can make $50 million or more just from selling stock options, right? So the ability to have access to capital is really, really essential to building businesses. And this is one of the reasons why white people have all the big fancy stuff, is because their projects are well funded and well financed. If Elon Musk were black, he would not be Elon Musk. If Mark Zuckerberg were black, Facebook would not exist. If Mark Cuban were black, Mark Cuban himself, bless him for saying this, he actually said that if he were black, or if Zuckerberg were black, those companies wouldn't exist. And I agree with that. Or maybe he said it in a different way, but that's kind of what he was saying, because he was on Earn Your Leisure and he was, I guess, trying to be cool with black people again, which is fine. I like him. I don't have any issue with this guy. So that's one side of it. Now here's the other side of it. That is everything in finance for the most part is a yin and a yang. And so it's fun to kind of figure out, like, okay, everything seems good here, but where's the dark side? And everything seems terrible here. What's the bright side? Everything in finance typically has a dark side and a bright side. So the bright side of access to capital is that you can create all this possibility and all this potential. The dark side, though, of having access to too much capital is that it creates something we've discussed in this class before, which is called the free cash flow problem. The free cash flow problem is when you have too much money too fast, you waste it. When you get too much money too quick, you invest in everything. You want to hire everybody. You want to make every move. And sometimes you ain't supposed to do it. Sometimes you're supposed to sit back and chill and think. Sometimes you're supposed to sit and wait and learn. Sometimes you're supposed to observe before you make a move. And so when you have a bunch of money, like imagine if you have an idea for a business. I'm going to go and I'm going to sell the coolest sneakers on earth, and they're going to be pro-black sneakers, and we're going to make $1 billion doing it. And then let's say somebody says, that's a great idea. Here's $50 million to get started. Well, then what will happen is you'll take that 50 million, you're going to pour it into a bunch of stuff that ain't going to work. And you're sort of undercutting the process. So after you burn through all that money, making one mistake after another, you're going to look back and say, wow, if I'd known then what I know now, I would have used that money differently. Exactly. So sometimes not having all the money that you need, this is a blessing that my brother and I had that I didn't realize was a blessing at the time. And I know a lot about finance. At that time, I had a whole PhD in finance. So even I was learning stuff. Don't never think that you get to the point where you can't keep learning. Because I was learning about the streets. Because a lot of finance professors are real good at teaching finance, but they haven't actually run businesses before. So I was learning to be an entrepreneur. I was building my skill set. But I remember we had these ideas, and we even had gotten them to the point where they were making money. We had one project that was making a good amount of money, maybe $5,000-$10,000 a month, and we just needed like maybe another 50 grand for investment to really expand this thing and blow this thing up. And we got on the phone with it was 3 black men. One of them was a part owner of the Boston Celtics, so this guy had money. And I heard him talking about his investments. They weren't making that much money, like 4% or 7% or something. I was like, come on, we could do better than that. So I got on the phone with these guys, and one was a lawyer and one was a businessman. And so I'm talking to these older black men. I'm 35. I'm thinking these 50-year-olds are going to hook me up and help me out. I didn't know at the time that unfortunately sometimes brothers don't want to help brothers out. They're competing with you rather than trying to help you. I didn't know that. So if you're younger than me, just know my goal is not to do that. I want to support you. I want to see you win. I want to see you succeed, right? So anyway, so these guys got on the phone. I did this whole pitch on what we were doing and what's working and what we can see happening if we get some more capital and blah blah. And I know these guys had the money. I know they had the money. And when I got done with the presentation, I was like, so what do you think? And the one guy, and he was a part owner of the Celtics. I won't say his name, but I'll never forget this guy. He instantly says, I'm not interested. And what really bothered me about it was that I knew that the other 2 guys were following his lead. And I was like, but why? Like, I did everything to show you this is an ATM machine. Like, and he just said, I'm not interested. And I remember the other guy that was kind of following him, like the alpha says no, but the beta guy, he's like, well, hold on a minute. We don't want to make a decision too quickly. I'm like, yeah, we don't want to be too hasty now, Bob, or whatever his name was. And but they ended up saying no. So I was mad. I was sad. I was just like, man, this sucks. Like, 50,000 isn't even that much money. We've put in thousands of hours of work into this thing. Can't we even get $50,000? Well, let me just tell you. I remember I told y'all a long time ago, I said, you got Massa's plan for you, which you should ignore. And then you have your plan for you, which sounds better. It's better than Massa's plan. But then you got God's plan. And God's plan is more accurate and more informed than your plan. He can see things at higher dimensions you can't go to. You understand? So what I did not realize was that even though it was Boyce's plan to go get this money, right? Because I'm fighting Massa's plan. I'm like, we're gonna get this money, we're gonna grow this great thing, we're gonna help these partners. Blah, blah. I mean, I offered them a big percentage of the company for a really fair amount of money. If they had taken that deal by now, that $50,000 would have turned into 5 million easily for them. And when I tell you, every day I am so grateful that they told me no. It's ridiculous. It's like you begged for love from a woman, and then later on you find out that she was a serial killer with an STD, and you say, thank God she didn't say yes because I dodged a bullet, right? So that's how I felt. I said, man, if we had taken, me and my brothers would laugh about it to this day. I said, man, if those guys had said yes and given us what we wanted, it would have been terrible because we would have had to share all this money with these guys. So I was very happy that they were too short-sighted to see the $1 million opportunity I laid in front of them. And so here's what happened. Because we didn't get what we wanted right at the moment, guess what? We learned how to make do with what we had. We learned a type of financial genius that a lot of your grandmothers have. My grandmother had it. Like my grandma, a lot of y'all got the same grandma. Tell me if you got the same grandma. My grandma knew how to take $22,000 a year and raise 5 kids, pay off all her credit card debt, pay her car off, house off, have a perfect credit score on $22,000 a year because she did not mess around. She was very, very financially efficient. And that is a type of economic genius that is underappreciated. That is genius built on survival, extreme resourcefulness, understanding wealth at a level that you never learn in a university class. The grandmas know where to get what they need, how to get the value, how to extract it somehow. And that's a type of wealth extraction that most people don't know if everything's handed to you on a silver platter. So literally, I had to dig into my grandma skills to be able to get my company going. We had to say, okay, how do we do more with $5,000 than most people can do with $50,000? What costs can we cut? How do we keep the budget low? How do we make sure we don't live above our means? See, think about this. Imagine if we had a culture where people just didn't live above their means. Look at how often you see people going into debt just to maintain a lifestyle and spend money on a bunch of stuff they don't even need, just so they can flex on Instagram or just live the way they think they're supposed to live because you went to Harvard and you think you're supposed to drive a certain car, live in a certain house, or whatever it is, right? A lot living below your means is not, it's not cool, it's not lit, it's not seen as being part of the culture, but I think it should be part of the culture. The culture should not be financial extravagance and economic irresponsibility. The culture should be economic efficiency and extreme financial intelligence and resourcefulness and wealth preservation so that you then can build the kind of legacy that you want to build. So by doing things that way, by being forced into a situation that we did not choose, by being forced to follow God's plan instead of Boyce's plan, we were able to build a really strong company. We got to the point where we changed the freaking world. And some of y'all saw the whole thing from the beginning. I'm sorry, I'm not bragging, but it's true. We changed the world with this thing. Wasn't nobody talking about black wealth in 2008, 2009, 2007. That was when we were getting this stuff started. All this stuff that you see now, all these people that are out there, they pay tribute to what we did 15, 20 years ago. And I'm very proud of that. You know, I believe we're just getting started, you know, because we're building the legacy now. That I think the good stuff's going to happen after we're all dead. I really believe that. I really believe that one day, 200 years from now, somebody's going to be watching this video and they're going to say, "Wow, they had no idea that it was going to become what it is now." I'm like, no, we kind of know. Because I know how to plant a damn seed. And also, I've studied the origins of great companies all throughout America. I've studied how many of the multi-billion dollar, trillion dollar companies that you see now had very humble beginnings, but they had a crystal clear vision for who they were and what they wanted to be. They were committed to the vision. They invested. They fought through the storms. They kept things moving. They remained consistent. And then next thing you know, you have Apple, the trillion-dollar company that started in somebody's garage. We didn't even start in the garage. So we're going to be much greater than Apple one day, right? Who knows, right? Anyway, and one of your children might be our version of Steve Jobs. One of your kids might be the visionary that takes our company from being a $20 million company to being a $1 billion company, right? One of your kids is going to do it. I already know it. I already know the Black Wealth Revolution has begun. They can't stop it, can't slow it down. They could kill me tomorrow and it wouldn't matter. The train has left the station. You can't catch it. so anyway, so what I guess my general point would be to say, access to capital matters. It's great to have access to capital, but don't think that because you don't have access to capital that you don't have access to extreme possibilities and opportunity and wealth. Sometimes you have to trade the money for time. So maybe some of the things we wanted to do right away, with, you know, if we'd had $1 million in the bank, we could have done things right away, but maybe we had to wait a year to do it because we didn't have all the money at once. But it's okay, because during that year we were learning things. We were learning how to do things in a much more efficient way than we would have if somebody just threw a whole bunch of money at the problem. Do you understand? Do you get what I'm saying? So access to capital is important. I'd rather have us have access to capital, but what's really more significant is the intelligent use of capital, the intelligent application of capital that is a driver of capital efficiency. You have to be efficient with it. And unfortunately, that's something that a lot of people never really learned, right? So I want you to learn those things. So when those reparations checks come in or whatever it is that they decide to do one day, maybe that one day they'll do the right thing. I really am a little concerned about making sure that people sort of know what that money's supposed to be used for, because if you don't, it's just going to go to waste. You know, you'll be back where you were before. All right. So anyway, let me answer a few of your questions, and then we're going to bounce out for today. By the way, I have a book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, and you can get an autographed copy if you go to drboycebooks.com. Also, my wife has a section. We have a whole money and love section. So if you're into that kind of thing, you can find stuff there. We have a children's section. So we have workbooks for children, flashcards for children, and we have a digital program for children. So we have lots of things for kids. And so if you want to learn, your kids to learn Black economics, we can get that done for you. All right. So a few more questions. Desmond, what are your feelings toward market weekend trading? I think it's fine. Or aftermarket weekend trading. I think it's fine. The market's not as liquid, but for big major stocks, it's perfectly fine for sure. Agnes, have you heard of Arrived? No, I have not. It's a real estate company, and Jeff Bezos is one of their investors. No, I have not. I'm going to look it up. Thank you for telling me about it. I'm going to write that down. Arrived. And then I'm going to type in Bezos so I can search for that. All right. Let's see. Travis, can I repeat the strategy that of a year or more covered calls, like the video where you can loan yourself 20,000 and make myself $1 million in the next few years? Yeah, Travis, if you log in at drboyceprime.com, you should be able to find the material. Because I did do an example like that where basically I sold long-term equity anticipation option? Yeah, something like that. Anyway, I sold a long-term option, and basically what you can do is the reason I like options is because you can sell time, and by selling that time, you can get that cash inflow. But the downside, though, is that if the market moves against you, then you can almost be locked in a almost like a time prison, in the sense that if you sell an option on a stock going out, say 2 years, and you get, say, $10,000, and let's say the market moves against you and that option goes from being worth 10,000 to 20,000, then you're stuck in this time prison where either A, if you want to get out of the option, you have to pay the 20,000, or B, you have to wait 2 years for the option to expire, and then you have to hand over the shares. So that's the downside of that. But the upside of it is that if you need cash and you own shares of stock, a lot of people don't know that you can actually loan yourself money. You can really use stocks as your own personal bank. So it's a really cool strategy. And so anybody who's interested in the program, the Prime program, feel free to take a look. It's really good. I think you're going to like it. It's drboyceprime.com, drboyceprime.com. Prime stands for Passive Recurring Income Machine. Gigi, do you think 2025 will be a bullish year in the stock market? It'd be hard to imagine 2025 being better than 2024. Anything's possible, but I'd be shocked if it were. Even with the anticipated pullback in the fall. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, 2024 has been really amazing. I don't know if 2025 is going to be as strong, but nobody really knows. Dr. Boyce, I'd like to connect with someone who's in the Prime program because I'm outside the US, meaning I don't have access to Robinhood. Okay. Is that Sile, Sihle? Email support at theblackbusinessschool.com, and let's see if they can help you find somebody or find someone to connect with. Also at the convention, we're going to have a special gathering for all the Prime members, so you can meet Prime members at the convention. So feel free to join us in Chicago. Dr. Boyce, or sorry, allblacknationalconvention.com, allblacknationalconvention.com. Ethelene, good morning, Dr. Boyce. Where would I find the information for the program JV? I signed my grandchildren up on Saturday night. You know, Ethelene, that information, if it did not arrive in your email, just email support at theblackbusinessschool.com, and Amani will respond to you pretty quickly, either Amani or someone else from the team, and they'll make sure that you're well taken care of. And that's 100% true for anything you do in the Black Business School. We have a great support team that's right on it. And if something ever happens and you don't get a response, it could be maybe the email address is in or wrong or something like that, but they're right on top of it. Our number one priority actually is to make sure that you get everything that you want and everything that you need, and that you are happy. If you're not happy, then we don't want you to invest in anything with us. Michael, seriously though, Professor Watkins, the market right now, buying opportunities are holding. I think it's a buying opportunity. Studies show that people who buy when the market drops by a certain percentage tend to do better than people who don't. You could sit around and wait and say, well, maybe it's going to keep dropping. You could do that, but that's a very dangerous strategy because you may miss your opportunity that way. So I personally believe when the market dips, I just start buying stuff. That's my general rule. Montez, do you think Kamala or Trump are on the Jeff Epstein list? That's outside the scope of this conversation. But you know, the thing about Epstein, it is a financial consciousness issue, because one thing that Epstein and I believe y'all want my Jeffrey Epstein theory? Like y'all want to hear what I think Epstein was, what he was all about? All right, I'm gonna give it to you really quickly. I believe I saw a video once where they showed that Epstein's plane had a tail number. You know, you guys know I'm sort of a trained pilot. I have my student pilot's license. I can fly airplanes. And one thing you learn in pilot training is that you can look at an airplane's tail number and you can look it up. You can look up the history of the plane. You can look at the flight trajectory. Every time I would get up and I would fly, my instructor would tell me to type in the plane tag, and it would show me right there on the internet where my plane has gone that day, like an hour later. It was crazy. And so with Epstein's plane, the big private jet he had, somebody looked up that tail number and basically said, oh, this somehow they connected it to Israeli intelligence. I believe, here's what I believe. It's a thing about, again, this relates to money, so this fits in the scope of this conversation. I believe that one thing that the Israelis might have done, Mossad is very insidious. You know, they're kind of like the Israeli version of the FBI or CIA. I believe that one thing that put it this way, it would be logical for them to do this if this is what they're doing. I think blackmail is a powerful tool that's used in politics, because a lot of politicians have secrets they don't want people to know. So I believe that what they did was they said, okay, people, they love people that have money. Everybody wants to be around the rich guy. Everybody wants to be friends with the rich guy. Everybody's flattered when the billionaire, you know, says, hey, come to my party. I went to billionaire Mike Roberts' party. He had a party at a castle in the Bahamas, and it was kind of cool. It's like, wow, I'm at a party with a billionaire at a castle. This is awesome, right? So a lot of times people want to be around people like that. And what happens is that your financial consciousness kind of drops, in the sense that people don't really ask the right questions. Like, okay, what does this come with? What are you involved with? How did you get your money? Like, what am I being connected to? Or even when you talk about people that will sleep with a wealthy man, and they have no idea what kind of man he is, where he's been, just all the problems that can come with that experience. But people are just happy because, oh, he's a doctor, oh, or he's a millionaire, oh, that's so exciting, girl. And I'm like, maybe you should really think about that a little bit. So Epstein would make a lot of friends and get a lot of access and influence because of his billionaire status. And I believe that that was strategically done to get people into compromising situations, so that when it came time for you to decide if you want to support the government's decision to send another 50 billion to Israel, we know what your answer is going to be. That's what I believe it was. I believe that's what all that's about. So so who, I don't think everybody that's on the Epstein list is, sleeping with underage children and all that stuff. I'm sure there's some people in there doing that, but I think there were some people who just said, "Oh, he's rich, he's a donor. We're going to get on the plane with this rich donor who's connected with Harvard," and so he's coming with all this other institutional credibility, and now everybody's kind of scrambling to disassociate. But I mean, come on, like he was a rich guy in the in crowd. And I think that that's just what it was. So would they be on the list? I don't know. I would expect them to be. If you're in high levels of politics, and back when Epstein was the cool guy to be around, or back when Diddy was the cool guy to be around, a lot of people have pictures with Diddy and Epstein and Trump and a lot of these people. Anyway, so let me see here. All right. Okay, so there you go. That's my Epstein theory. All right. So maybe Kamala's on the list, or Kamala. See, I say Kamala. Some people don't like. Somebody told me it's not Kamala, it's Kamala, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that. So Kamala, I'm gonna start using Kamala. So Kamala, and I hope I'm not saying Donald wrong. The Donald. I wouldn't be surprised if both of them are on the Epstein list, and I don't know why they are though. All right, Antoinette, Dr. Boyce, were you able to find out if the mobile notary classes are still available? Email support at theblackbusinessschool.com. They can tell you. I think that that's a closed program though, but it may not be. They may have the ability to bring you in, but I don't know if Andre's running with cohorts or if he's doing it sort of as an ongoing thing. So email support at theblackbusinessschool.com. I know that they're going to do another launch soon, so that's another avenue as well. France, I'm progressing through Black Money 102, and I was interested in a recording session. You mentioned tax prep and planning with Jessica Smith. Did that ever come to fruition through the Black Business School? We have some tax people that we are connected to. If you email the support email I gave you, support at theblackbusinessschool.com, they can help you with that. But the other thing too is that we don't have sort of any official tax company that we recommend or anything like that. So anybody that's kind of come through, that's sort of your decision, but that's not something that where we say, okay, this is our official company that we support. Okay. All right. Let's see, Dr. Boyce, the work that you're doing is awesome. Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. Thank you so much for using your genius ideas to be one without being arrogant and cutting edge. Keep on keeping on, Juanetta. Thank you, Juanetta. That's a night. You made my day, Juanetta. I appreciate you, ma'am. Let's see. Next question. I'm retiring from the military. Thank you for your service. And I'm looking seriously for a mentor in the financial sector. I signed up for Prime before you offered the discount a few weeks ago. Is there anything that can be done to get the difference? Email support at theblackbusinessschool.com, and they will work. They'll do the best that they can based on the situation. So just email support at theblackbusinessschool.com, and they can help you. And congratulations on your retirement. Let's see. Ilchris says, is buy, borrow, and die that technique smart? A smart thing to do for keeping wealth in the family? I think it is. But the buy part means acquire assets. That's what makes you rich. Is rich people are the ones who have the most stuff. Borrow means instead of selling the asset and having a taxable event, in giving money to the IRS, just borrow against the asset you own so that you can maintain ownership, maintain control, and get that capital appreciation, but still have the money you need to live. And then you die. And then when you die, your kids inherit the asset at a stepped up tax basis. So they don't have to pay for any of the capital gains you accumulated because you kept them in a bottle. Because you kept them in a bottle, when you die, they throw the bottle away and your child starts with a whole new bottle with nothing in it, which is pretty insidious and horrible. It's terrible for the government. And that's one of the reasons why our government deficits and debts are so high, is because they don't tax the rich at the level that they should. But given that they do it this way, I want you to win. So that's a good strategy to look into. Michael Hollingshed says, in 10 years, where do you envision the Black Business School being and doing? That's a great question. I envision, I envision, well, hopefully if I'm here, I hope I'm here in 10 years. If I'm here in 10 years, I'm literally going to be right here, like talking to you every day, like I was, 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I was right here. So I don't plan to go anywhere. We make a lot of partnerships. We just partnered with an estate planning attorney that I'm going to talk to later on today. We are partnering with Constance Carter, who owned the largest Black real estate firm in California. She's going to be doing some work with us very, very soon. We just partnered with Asada Moore, who runs the Black Math Genius program, and we blended that into Black Millionaires of Tomorrow. We partnered with Andre C. Hatchett, who runs the Mobile Notary School, who's training people to become mobile notaries, which is a great way to make extra money. We partnered with Ace Chapman, who has helped, who has made millions of dollars acquiring businesses. One thing that people don't know is that there is this massive retirement thing happening, right? This massive wealth transfer occurring because all the boomers are getting older. So their businesses are just sitting there and they're going to die unless somebody takes them. So he's really good at helping people to acquire businesses, which is a great approach because you then don't have to figure out how to start something. You could just run something that's already been there. A lot of Black businesses die because they don't have anybody to pass it on to, because we live in a society where people somehow convince us that we're never going to get old. And so legacy planning, the lack of legacy planning on behalf of some people becomes a money-making opportunity for those who do make a plan. Heather Elliott, let's see. You said you joined late. That's okay. You may have already covered this. Can we dissect Warren Buffett's sale? How much stock did it include? Any extras, amenities? Yeah, all I saw with the Warren Buffett sale was that he sold a big stake in Bank of America. Let me see if I can pull that up and we can see. Let's investigate. So he dumped 2.3 billion shares over a 6-day period. Or sorry, $2.3 billion in shares over a 6-day period. He said it's let's see, it's been 6 straight days. They sold another 18.9 million shares on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at an average price of $42, raising $802 million. I guess that was each day or something. Okay. Over the past 6 trading sessions, Berkshire has unloaded 52.8 million shares total, reducing their stake to 12.5%. So they already had a big stake. They're not divesting, they're just reducing their stake. Berkshire still owns 980.1 million shares of Bank of America, valued at $41 billion, a distant second to its $172.5 billion holding in Apple. Let's see here. Buffett could be trimming the bet on valuation concerns after Charlotte-based Bank of America outperformed the broader market this year. So what they're saying is that it looks like maybe he's trimming his stake because the stock has done so well. A lot of times, if a stock goes way, way up, investors will cut their stake, not because they don't like the company, but because they want to sort of take some profits and divest those profits. Like, so if you start a company and your company, blows up and becomes this multi-million-dollar entity, the first step you want to do is actually pull as much cash out as you can so you can divest some of that, because good times don't last forever. And if you look at Bank of America stock, Lord Jesus, I mean, this is a good investment for Buffett. Let me show you the chart. And because it was such a good investment, I believe that's why he wants to kind of back out a little bit. But if you look here, in the last year, it's made 31%, which is really good. The last 6 months, 26%. The last month, 7%, not bad. Last 5 years, not so much. Last 5 years has pretty much matched the last 1 year. So in 1 year, they made as much money as they made in the last 5 years. So he's probably just trimming because he did so well. And when you've done that well, you don't want one asset to take too much of your portfolio. So a lot of fund managers will shave some off the top. Let's see. Should I open my stock portfolio under an LLC? Yeah, I mean, Yvette, there's nothing wrong with that. You can do that. I'm in the market for a CPA that is knowledgeable in this area in order to obtain guidance for myself and other family members that I'm conveying your message. It is hard to find a CPA lately. That has become just a tough business. You can find one online, but I don't have any. I mean, I had to work hard to find a good CPA for our company. So I wish I could tell you, something easy to do, but it is difficult. Any pointers without providing literal investment advice? One concern my group has how to manage the gains. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Let me see. Oh, man. So you've been making money and you want to manage the gains. Okay. Well, I would say that if you wanted a financial advisor, you could go to a lot of banks have advisors that are right there on staff. Aisha Verzi is part of the Black Business School. If you go to drboyceoffers.com, that's drboyceoffers.com, drboyceoffers.com. Aisha's number is on there, and she can help you if you're looking into things like insurance vehicles that can help you to do something with your wealth. And then, at that point, I think the type of advisor you'd want, in my opinion, would come down to what you're trying to do. So if you're trying to do real estate, I would get somebody that really does a lot of real estate. If you're trying to do something in entrepreneurship, then maybe a consultant that knows how to run a business is important. If you're looking at stock market stuff doesn't have to be complicated. I think you can set up a decent portfolio that will grow over time by following basic steps. If you go to blackwealthmasterplan.com, where we have the $5 a day plan, if you want it to be as simple as possible, there's enough there that you could get started. But then if you want to do more, you could actually get an advisor from a bank. Just make sure they don't hit you too hard with the fees. So I would definitely wouldn't say 1% or above. If they even charge you 1%. Of invested assets, then I'd probably try to figure out like what services am I getting for that 1%? Because even that's a little bit too high. Brandon, how much capital at a minimum does a person need to start selling options? There is no minimum. It just depends on what you're seeking to do. There are people with low amounts of capital. There are people with millions in capital that are selling options. So really, there's no specific number. You just have to be able to buy 100 shares of whatever stock that you're selling options on. So if the stock is a $10 stock, then you need $1,000. But even then, though, you'd want to have some put options in place to protect your investment. So you need a little bit more than 1,000. So maybe 1,100 or something like that. But a portfolio of that size would not generate a significant ton of money, but it would generate a quality ROI in an added income stream that you can add to over time. So let's see. Will the Math Genius Bootcamp help a person become a smart investor also? Yes, Marcia. Our kids program is better than most universities. Our kids are 10, 12 years old and they can invest at a college level. So we're good at what and I know Asada is good. So yeah, absolutely. Constance's last name is Constance Carter. So I'm going to bring Constance to class one morning. And so you'll get to meet her in person. She's real dynamic, super smart. And just, she's been working with us in the Black Business School for about 9 years now. And just a real quality human being. I respect her a lot. Joan Gibbs, what do you think a business growing around pickleball? Are there any stocks around it? I don't know about any pickleball stocks, but my sister has a boyfriend who owns a pickleball team, and I brought him to my real estate class actually, and his name's Cedric, and he does a lot of like multifamily deals and commercial real estate deals, stuff like that. And Cedric, ironically, bought a pickleball team. And I think that pickleball team is going up in value. Pickleball is really growing. Jamie Foxx was talking about pickleball. I don't know of any publicly traded companies in pickleball, though. I'd have to look that up. But yeah, pickleball, that might be something to look into, especially if you're a fan. Okay, a couple more questions. Do you plan on uploading any promotional materials to the Black Business School dashboard? Maybe you can help me understand what you mean by promotional materials. If you talk about just promotions and discounts, if you go to drboyceoffers.com, that's where Mike tends to put a lot of that stuff. I don't know about anything else that you might mean by that. So maybe you can help me understand that, or you just email support and tell them what you're looking for. And I can definitely help you with that. Now, one thing that we do have, if you are interested in learning stock options on a basic level, is a companion to Money in the Morning. We created something called Money in a Minute, where the lessons every day are less than 2 minutes and they get delivered to you on your cell phone every morning. So if you text the word Miami, which stands for Money in a Minute, if you text the word Miami to the number 87948, you'll get a link, and that's where you can sign up. And that might be an easy way within the flow of your day for you to learn the basics of stock options. And those of you that are already in the Money in a Minute program for stock options, I'm going to send you all a survey that I hope you'll figure out or fill out for us. It's going to be very, very short. But basically, I'd like to get some feedback on you from just how you feel about it. Like, do you feel like you actually learned something, and how did that process go for you? All right, so 2 more questions, then we're going to go. Michael says, "Good morning, Doc. How long does it take for the estimated credit from a stock option to arrive in your account?" It should go through as soon as the transaction is confirmed. You should see something that increases your cash. And it'll also increase your investable amount of money, or the amount of money that you have available for purchase, your purchasing power. So that should be instantaneously as soon as they confirm the transaction. Making the trade is not the same as actually executing the trade. Just because you say, I want to buy X amount of stock at a certain price, doesn't mean the order went through. You have to get a confirmation of that. What was that number? Yeah, text the word Miami to the number 87948, Miami to 87948, and you'll get that link. All right. Let's see. Last question. Can you write stock options into a traditional business plan, or should this be separate? I think you could put anything in your business plan. Remember that in business, your goal is to make money. Your goal is to make an investment, and that investment can make money for you. This is and this is the fundamental idea I want to leave our conversation on today. I want you to really understand what making money really means, what that looks like. Most income and wealth comes from some source of capital. And that capital is pretty much anything that can generate resources. And not even just money. Money is one resource. Money is just a resource that can be used to do a lot of things, but there's lots of resources out here. Carrots. If I have a carrot farm, then my capital base is the farm, and my resource generated by the capital base of the carrots. Money doesn't even have to be involved. Maybe I never sell the carrots. Maybe I just eat them. But either way, that's an investing process. I apply capital to something that generates an ROI, return on investment. Do you understand? So the way you are taught about money as a child, that is, in my view, old-fashioned, wrong, highly inappropriate, and just very limiting to your potential, is you're taught that pretty much you have one type of capital, and that's basically you. You are the commodity. You are the asset. So what happens is, if you say I want to make money, someone says, well, what you got to do is go get a job, and someone will pay you money. So basically, you are the asset, and you work the asset. You give away yourself and your time and your brain power, and so you're making the investment of the capital by working yourself into the ground, and then you get your ROI, which is your paycheck. You understand? That is what they refer to as human capital. Human capital can grow through things like education or working out or whatever, right? Like if I'm lifting boxes all day and I go to the gym and I get real strong, then my human capital goes up because I'm Big Boyce, the big guy who can lift a lot of boxes, right? So somebody may pay me more because I have a more productive capital base. Do you understand? I can lift 20 boxes an hour where somebody else might only be able to do 15. So I get more money, right? Or I go to college and I get a degree, right? I go to some university, I go 100,000 in debt, and they give me a piece of paper where I am certified that I have learned certain skills or gotten smarter. And so I get more money because college graduates and master's degree graduates and stuff get paid more money. So my capital is more productive. My human capital has increased in value, which makes it a more productive asset, which has increased my ROI. I think all of that is fine. But here's the problem. The reason that that's a problem is for a couple of reasons. One, you're eventually going to get old and tired. So your capital is what they call depleting capital. It's depreciating on a regular basis. You can't work at 75 the way you could at 25. You understand? And that's a risk factor for you that has to be sort of dealt with. Or if you're a basketball player and you say, I'm going to sign $100 million contract because I'm the best in the world of basketball. Well, when you're 40 years old, that's not going to be true anymore. So you have a lot of basketball players that go broke because their most productive form of capital, their human capital of being a great basketball player, depletes itself. It depreciates, and now you're kind of stuck financially. So what you want to add to your arsenal of money making possibilities is a broader understanding of all the different types of capital that can generate resources that you need. LeBron James, I think, is a great example. Since we're talking about basketball players, one thing LeBron has always understood is that he's not going to be young forever. And one thing LeBron has done over many, many years, and Steph Curry's doing, a lot of guys do this, is they make as much money as they can off their human capital, their basketball skill, knowing that when they get 35, 40, 45 years old, they're not going to be able to do that anymore. So they're taking the income from their human capital and they're diversifying their portfolio. Do you understand? They're diversifying. LeBron's invested in the movie studio. He's invested, I'm sure, in tons of stocks and pizzerias and all this other stuff. And he's created other forms of capital that are going to make money without depleting his body. LeBron is already at a point where he can make probably $100 million a year without even getting out of bed. And so even though most of us will never be LeBron, most of us will never be 6'8", 240 pounds, a lot of us are still high value assets. We go to our jobs, they pay us lots of money because you went to school, you got the master's degree, you work your butt off, you're a smart person, you're hardworking, you do all these things you're supposed to do. But you really want to think also about the importance of yourself and your children having forms of capital that can generate income and resources without depleting their body. Do you understand? Does that make sense? Right. So that's what you start a business. If you start a business and you automate the business and you've got employees working for you, then that's kind of what you've done. You create this source of capital that is going to be able to make a ton more money than you can make from your human capital, and it may not even require you to be involved. So, or if I go buy a bunch of stock and I say, okay, I've been saving up and using my income to buy this stock over the last 10 years. Now I've got, 10,000 shares of Coinbase, and I can sell options on Coinbase every month and generate $50,000 a month or whatever. Well, then that's what you've done. You built a capital base, and your capital base is generating income for you just the same as it would if you were actually out working and depleting your body and giving up all your free time to do that. Using human capital is a very costly way to make money, and it should be temporary for everyone. Your children should not be in a position where they are using their human capital for their whole entire lives. That should be temporary, or maybe it shouldn't even happen at all. Okay, so this is how I want you to think about making money. It's all universal. It's all unified. Like there's a whole unified theory of money and how it works and how it's made, and all the valuation models that we did when I was in my doctoral program and all, they all come back to the same very basic fundamental ideas. So the key to wealth in your life and the lives of anybody you care about is building that capital base. If you build that capital base, then you have a level of freedom and financial security and economic possibility that is beyond anything that you were ever raised to believe was possible for you. Okay, so that's what I want for you. All right, so I hope that makes sense. Right. Thank you guys for listening. See, I tried to end at 24 minutes in, and here we are, an hour and 20 minutes in. So either I talk too much or you're too engaging. I have no idea. But either way, I'm getting the hell up out of here. So y'all have a great day, and we'll talk to you all soon. And again, if you want to take a look at my book, you can go to drboycebooks.com. And I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you all tomorrow morning. Oh, and by the way, if you're not on the text list to get an invitation to Money in the Morning, to come into the private Zoom, I see there's a few hundred of you in here now. So anybody who's watching on some other platform, just text the word morning, MORNING, to 87948. If you text morning to 87948, I will send you an invitation tomorrow morning, and you can join us. We do this every single morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 days a week, because we are serious about our wealth and we are going to build that legacy. So God bless you. 6, Black ownership rights have been preserved to land in Florida, according to the Adams-Onis Treaty. 7, if blacks have received the $50 million stolen by whites from the Freedmen's Bank, the exceptionality of Black Americans is their best, but so far unused pathway to socioeconomic competitiveness, independence, and self-sufficiency. I'm going to stop on that point, and we're going to take a breath. And I want us to kind of process this for a minute. I want us to meditate on what Dr. Anderson said. Here's what I'm getting from this. It seems that what Dr. Anderson is saying is that you live in a country that wants to lump you in with everybody else. They want to act like what you went through and what you lost was not that important. That all that matters is how we move forward from here, and the past is just the past, which means the past doesn't matter anymore. I beg to differ. That is simply not true. The present is nothing more than an accumulation of actions that have been taken during the past. That's all the present is. Everything that you see around you, when you walk through a city like Seattle and you see $1 billion, $100 million, $200 million, $1 billion buildings all throughout that city, and you realize that not one of those buildings is owned by a Black person, there's a reason for that. Why is it that so many of these institutions are not owned by Black people, but were built by Black people? So a debt is owed, and it's owed because you are unique and exceptional. There's no other group of people in this country that can say they went through what we went through, that they had the same experience, they had the same theft that occurred for our families. And so the question becomes, what are you going to do about that? What are you going to do about that? Because that's a big debt. If somebody owes you $3,000 and they only got $3,500 in the bank, they're not going to give you that money because they owe it to you. They're not going to give that money to you if they don't have to. If you just say, oh, well, we can still be friends, we're still cool, then guess what? They might send you $50 or something. They're not going to give you that 3,000 if they've only got 3,500 in the bank. So you're dealing with a country that is in an enormous amount of debt, and they tend to only pay for things that they have to pay for. They send money over to Israel because the Israelis have a very powerful lobby. They have AIPAC, and they force them to pay that money. They make them do that. They know that if they don't write those big $100 billion, $50 billion checks, that they're not going to get reelected. So you have to force their hand. Can you force it? When we got the Obama administration, Russell Simmons and I pushed the Obama administration to do something on incarceration back 9 years ago. We had to make them do it. They didn't want to do it. And it was crazy because it was something they promised they would do. They just were like, well, we don't have to keep promises to black people because nobody's making us do it. When FDR was talking to black people about civil rights and everything else, he said, okay, great, go out there and make me do it. So I really, instead of making this all about how evil white people can be, because we know we got evil white people out there, but I don't hate all white people. I don't hate, this is not a hatred conversation. Instead of us sitting around and doing the typical Negro tradition of complaining about how white folks done did us wrong, after we finish that conversation, I need us to talk about how we're doing ourselves wrong. Before you talk about how they're selling you short, you got to talk about how you're selling yourself short. So what are you commanding? What are you demanding? Or are you just so eager to go out and just support your favorite politician and literally expect nothing in return? That's awkward. That's very weird. That's very unhealthy. That's a mental illness. I don't care who you vote for, whether you vote for Trump, Harris, or something in between, or you vote for nobody. I just ask you to consider the logical action of quid pro quo. Logically saying, okay, now that I'm supporting you, here's what I need you to give me, or I won't support you anymore. If you cannot say that, then you will never be respected. You will always be taken advantage of. They're always going to use you because all pimps love to use a sucker. Any pimp loves to use a sucker. Politicians are pimps. They will use you up if you don't ask for anything because they got somebody right behind you who is demanding what they want. Israel they demand what they want. You know, the gay community, they're demanding what they want. When the immigrants start voting, they've got leadership that's going to demand what they want. So what are you going to do? That's it. That's all. That's my whole point today. I'm not going to keep going on forever. I got to go and do some other stuff. I think I've done enough yelling and screaming today. I've given us enough to think about. If you want to go take a look at Dr. Anderson's book, you can go to powernomics.com. That's where you can find his books. It's called The Black History Reader. Powernomics is there as well. I keep these books very handy. I encourage you. First of all, we should support this man. This man, all that money, all these brothers raising these people that raised $2 million to help Harris get elected when she said she would do nothing specifically for black people. I would love for those same men to get together and raise, a couple $1 million for Dr. Anderson, the Powernomics Corporation, who has spent 50 years doing things specifically for black people. How is it that you will give your best to people who give you their worst and give your worst to people who give you their best? This man has done work that no one else is willing to do. And I find that really fascinating that you put him at the bottom of the pile and you put people who hate you and don't respect you at the top of the pile. That speaks to a self-esteem issue. That's a mental health issue. That's no different from the guy who treats one woman really well and she's the one who doesn't even like him. Saying that says it's the economy, stupid. And so things like jobs and inflation, things like that tend to dominate a lot of the conversation, when it comes to politics. And so, and all of us have mixed opinions about that. All of us have our own feelings about what the state of the economy is. In fact, I'd like to ask you all this. I'd be curious to know what you all think. How many of you all feel that the economy is strong right now? How many of you feel like it's very strong? Give me a yes if you feel like it's strong. Give me a no if you feel like it's not very strong. I'd be curious to see your responses on that. And I got something in my eye. Sheesh. Oh, sorry about that, guys. And the reason I want to ask you all this is because there tends to be a disconnect between what the state of the economy looks like to working class people versus what it looks like to people that are either wealth builders or in the upper class. And all of you are wealth builders, but you may not be upper class yet. By being a wealth builder, though, you're headed toward the upper class. Wealth builder pretty much is a pretty simple idea to me. It means that you're either a saver or you are seeking to acquire real estate, or you're buying stock on a regular basis, and you have a financial surplus, meaning that you don't spend your entire paycheck. Your goal is not to live paycheck to paycheck. Your goal is to have a premium, have a surplus that allows you to build wealth. Remember, income doesn't mean very much. Income is just a flash in the pan sort of moment. Income is definitely not the same as wealth. Income is simply the opportunity to have wealth. So if you think about income, you can think about income like sex, right? Sex can happen, pretty quickly. It can happen one time. If there's somebody you slept with 25 years ago, and there's no evidence that you slept together, you could just go through the rest of your life denying that it happened, because the only two people that know that it happened are you and that other person. But what if you had a baby? What if somebody got pregnant? Well, now you can't deny that you had sex, because there's like some 25-year-old walking around saying, I'm evidence that this event took place. So to some extent, you can think of wealth and income similar to pregnancy and sex, where income doesn't mean a whole lot. It means something in the moment, but it goes away very quickly. And income is pretty much merely an opportunity to have wealth. Income is not the same as wealth. Do you get what I'm saying? I know it's an awkward analogy, but give me a yes if you follow that analogy. I think it's a great analogy. I've never used it before. I like analogies. Analogies help us understand things by understanding foreign concepts, by connecting them to concepts that we've understood our whole lives. Well, a lot of us know the difference between having sex and having a baby. And we know that. Here's another thing that's really interesting, too. If you think about this, most people that have sex don't actually have a child. Like, imagine if every single time somebody had sex, there was a baby born. Like, literally, imagine that. Imagine every single time you had sex. Some of y'all had sex, maybe not with maybe not with that many people, but maybe you've probably maybe had sex thousands of times in your life. Some of y'all may have had sex with thousands of people. I'm not judging. Hopefully you didn't. If you did, you need to go get checked out, because that's not good for you. That's not healthy. But let's say you had sex with a few people, and you've had sex with a few people at least hundreds of times, maybe thousands of times throughout your life. Imagine if every single time you had sex, a baby was born. You would, like these, you ever see those stories about those people that go and like some young dude who gives to the sperm bank, and he just does that every week, like to make rent money. And then years later, he's got like 150 kids or something, right? Like, so imagine that, right? Well, that to me is the visual I want you to understand, in terms of the difference between a reality that you live where all you do is make income, versus another reality where some percentage of the time when you get income, some percentage of that income goes toward creating wealth, right? Because some people go through life and they work really, really hard. They make a lot of money, and there's absolutely nothing to show for it. Literally 25 years later, they literally 25 years later, they will say, gosh, I'm so tired. I've worked so hard. I'm so stressed out. I put in so many thousands of hours into this company and into this job, because they gave me a black job a long time ago, and I worked my butt off. I was the hardest working person on my black job. And you say, well, what evidence do you have to show that you worked this hard? And they'll say, well, I don't have anything. I don't have any assets. I don't have any real estate. I don't have any stock. And you say, well, gosh, so what do you have to do now? Well, I got to keep on working, because literally I'm feeding my life by literally feeding into the moment. If there's ever a moment or two where I cannot work, if I have to go 3 weeks without working, without a job, I'll be financially devastated. I'll be broke. I'll be stuck. And I don't know if that's necessarily a healthy way to live. I think a better way to live might be where you say, okay, I'm 25 years old. I'm going to work my butt off, and 10% of the income that I earn is going to go toward wealth accumulation. Just 10%, not 30%, not 50%. If you did that, then you'd be very rich at a very early age. But let's say it's just 10%. Well, a person who does that, by the time they get about 45 or 50, they could probably retire, especially if they know basic things like selling stock options. If you, let's say you had 1,000 shares of Coinbase stock, you could literally make $10,000 to $15,000 a month just selling options on your Coinbase stock. You guys have seen me in options class. You've seen me do this. Okay. So really what I want you to kind of think about is, I want you to process this. And sort of ask yourself, when you're listening to your favorite politician, whoever that may be, Kamala, Trump, or somebody else, I want you to really think about this. When they talk to us extensively about black jobs, and they say we're doing something for the black community because we're going to give everybody black jobs. Trump used the term black jobs, but y'all know what black jobs are. They're jobs occupied by black people, right? And maybe, you know, if Kamala gets elected, maybe president of the United States will be a black job, because, you know, she has Jamaican heritage, right? She's not African American. That is a difference, though. That does matter, but she's still black on that side of her family because Jamaicans are black people, most of them. And so I kind of think that maybe instead of just talking about black jobs, I would love to hear more conversations about black wealth. You know, instead of just talking about black jobs, I'd like to hear words like black owned. You know, black jobs is not an exciting word to me. We've had black jobs since slavery. I like to think about things like black families and black children and black communities and black institutions and just, you know, put the word black in front of things. Like we have the Black Business School, right? That's a black institution. That's something where I work very, very hard on this every day, knowing that at some point I'm going to die. And my belief and my hope is that because I'm leaving a percentage of my wealth to the Black Business School, that I will have something to show for all this work that I put in every single day. See, building the Black Business School is a little bit different from me just pouring into a black job. I had a good black job. I had a really nice black job. When I was at Syracuse, I made $115,000 a year. And that was a lot of money in 2001. It's still a lot of money now, but back then it was even more money. So I had a nice black job, but that black job was not contributing to a black legacy. That black job, you know, that was going to make Syracuse great. It wasn't going to make the legacy of Boyce Watkins great. It wasn't going to do much for the black community, because Syracuse has their own agenda and it's not always consistent with a black agenda. So I kind of really want you to just think about this. Um, and especially when you're engaging in politics, I don't tell anybody who to vote for. I have to keep repeating this because there are people that don't really want black people to have the same liberties as it pertains to politics that everyone else gets. I can't just say, hey, vote for whoever you want. People will say, well, that's bad because it's supposed to tell everybody to go vote for the Democrat. And I'd say I'm not doing that. I tell people to vote for whoever you are happy with. So if you like Kamala, go vote for Kamala. If you like Trump, go vote for Trump. If you don't like either one of them, don't vote for either one of them. Do what you want to do. And there's nothing wrong with that message. I hope that message is okay for me to share. And I will say this though, that when you talk about the black economics, which I think it literally is the number one driver of black liberties and freedoms in this country. Part of the reason you don't have liberty and freedom is because most black people work for a white person, which means white people will always have more power because you will never have more power than your boss, especially if you're living paycheck to paycheck. That's just a fact. That's just the reality. And I hate saying it like that, but that's true. Okay, so you really are in a real life Game of Thrones, and you really don't want to lose this game due to a lack of understanding or a lack of preparation or a lack of economic consciousness. Now, before I move on, I want to remind everybody later on today, I'm going to have a conversation with a sister named Asada. I don't even have her last name in front of me, but I know that she works with Freddie Taylor from Urban Intellectuals, and they've created something called the Black Math Geniuses Program, where what we've done is we've taken our Black Business School for Children called Black Millionaires of Tomorrow, and we're going to merge some of that with their Black Math Genius Program, because we educate our own kids. I don't need Mr. Charlie to educate my kids. Like we got this. We're smart enough to do this. And so anyway, she's going to come in and talk about that a little bit later on today, about 2 p.m. Eastern. I'll send you all a text to let you all know when that's happening. So if you're not on the text list, get on the text list. And also you get invited to our private Zoom where we do money in the morning every morning. So you can just text the word morning, MORNING, to the number 87948. Text morning to 87948, and I'll send you a link when it's time to meet with Asada. That's going to be a little bit later on today. And that's important because I really think that the opportunity for Black people, the opportunity that we have as African Americans, and there are a lot of you that are maybe not African Americans. I know that we have love from all around the world, and I'm not unincluding you at all. But I will say that the big move we can make that will change everything is to deeply commit ourselves to making sure our kids are economically advanced at an early age. This is very easy to do. My doctorate's in finance, you guys know this. And one of the things that I realized is I said, if we can take advanced financial concepts and just chop them up into baby food, like make it so that a child at the age of 7 can understand these concepts, then we can actually get a massive head start on everyone else. This is a battle plan that I know will make a big difference. So, for example, in the Black Business School, we have what you call the KID model, which stands for knowledge, investment, and discipline. Knowledge, investment, and discipline means that if you give your child economic knowledge at an early age, then they're going to be in great shape, far better than other kids. Number two, if you give them investment, you have to give them capital that they can use to apply this knowledge, right? You don't want to be a smart person who knows how to run a great company but can't afford to even start one, because then they'll end up running a great company for somebody else instead of being an economic parent. They will become an economic babysitter. An economic babysitter is where someone sees that you're smart and you're broke. That's very dangerous to be smart and broke, because if you're smart and you're broke, then that means someone's going to hire you and they're going to use your financial desperation to extract ideas from you, all these possibilities from you that are going to be used to build their legacy, build their wealth. In fact, actually, the other day on Fly Nubian Money, which is a platform we help design for women. It has hundreds of thousands of followers. Feel free to check the ladies out. They go on there every single day. They were actually talking about, they were speculating. Again, I'm not making an accusation one way or the other, but they were speculating on the whole portal that Tyler Perry has, where he says, "Hey, if you have a great idea and you want us to make your script into a movie, put your script in here. We'll take a look and we'll let you know if we want to make a movie from it," right? And I'm not saying that he's doing this. And this is not. And I did. Tyler called me years ago, and we only talked one time. He was a very nice guy. He also arranged for me to do a tour. Me and my daughter were in town, and I reached out to him and I said, "I'd like to do a tour of your studio." And he wasn't available, but he went out of his way to get his number two in command to give us a 2-hour tour of the studio. And let me just tell you, one, I was impressed with his graciousness. He's a decent human being in that way. Number two, that studio was amazing. I mean, I was really, I loved what he's doing. I love the fact that I don't watch Madea movies, I ain't gonna lie, but I loved the way he showed respect for all these great black actors and actresses that don't get the same love out of Hollywood, right? He was giving love. And so Tyler and I overlap a lot. Like, if you listen to a lot of his speeches, he gets the idea of black ownership, black power, and black wealth. That black wealth is black power. However, and I have to talk about this too, and just again, because I got to be honest, the ladies on Fly Nubian Money were kind of speculating, like, okay, when they're asking you to submit your script and your best ideas to see if they want to make a movie out of that, are they doing that because they really intend on sort of legitimately evaluating what you're doing and making you a legitimate partner in the process? Or are they just looking for ideas that they then want to pursue and make into their own? I'm not saying this is the case one way or the other, but I know that there are quite a few people who feel that, wait a minute, hey, that movie you just made, that's a lot like the script I sent you last year. Like, but you told me that you didn't want to do it, but this movie is a lot like my script. And now here's the thing. I don't know if that's going on with Tyler or not, but I know that this does happen with a lot of major companies. You have companies like Apple that will do that. Apple's been accused of having meetings with tech companies, getting all their secrets, and then saying, we don't want to buy you now, and then creating their own product. Amazon's been accused of that. Amazon's been accused of the exact same thing. So it's really to the point where a lot of companies say, if you get invited to a meeting where Amazon's thinking about acquiring you, don't even go, don't even participate. And so what is happening there, in my view, is that, remember that economic power comes with a type of ability to colonize, right? It comes with a type of dominance that people who are that have wealth are able to utilize to manage people who are financially desperate. Do you understand? So you go in the world, you send your child out in the world, and they got a ton of brains, but ain't got no capital. So they're not really able to operate on a level where they're thinking about building $1 billion company. They're thinking about, how do I just pay my rent this week? So what a company does, where they're well capitalized, is they come along and they say, okay, show up, bring your best ideas. We will own them all, and we'll make sure you can pay your rent. So in exchange for you giving up all your economic possibilities, they're giving you enough money to survive. So the KID model that we use in the Black Business School in our Black Millionaires of Tomorrow program is built around this idea to say that if you give your child knowledge, just know knowledge without capital is a dangerous thing. Now, because if you don't have a capital base to support the application of that knowledge, then it kind of ends up going to waste. So you give them knowledge, then you give them investment. You give them investment. You make sure they walk out into the world with capital in their pocket so they can apply that knowledge and make it real. So the $5 a day plan, for example, which is 100% free at blackwealthmasterplan.com, that's blackwealthmasterplan.com, shows you how, if you start early, if you don't waste time, right? We waste money, but the worst thing we waste is not our money. The worst thing we waste is our time, because you got a newborn baby, you got 20 years, approximately 25 years, really, to build a nest egg for that child. If you were to simply invest $5 a day, or the amount of your car note, just the amount that you waste on your car note. If you invested the amount that some of y'all spend on your car note for that child consistently in the S&P 500, your child, by the time they're 25, they would have about $200,000 or $300,000, because some of y'all got big car notes. And so just think about this. This is really important. So now they've got knowledge and investment, and the last thing they just need is discipline. Discipline is the ability to avoid being distracted from the things that keep us from reaching our potential. Avoid being sucked into a culture that is not healthy, that is not economically beneficial, economically healthy. Discipline means the ability to set a goal and follow through on the goal. So you learn a lot of these things actually from sports, believe it or not. I learned most of the things that I did that made me successful in life, and I guess I'm decently successful. I'm not bragging. I guess I did okay. Most of the things I learned that made me successful or great at anything in life actually came out of sports. Sports is amazing because sports shows you how to work as a team. It shows you how to sacrifice. It shows you how to be consistent. It shows you how to set a goal, right? So if you take all that and you understand what life is just a big game. Life is just a big competition. And so if you are a competitor in sports, then you can be a competitor in life. So that little black boy you have that's the superstar of the basketball team, but was making D's and F's on his report card, that's a problem, because what that all that means is that he's turning off his brain when he gets off that basketball court. And I can tell you that that's not healthy, and that's not appropriate, and that shouldn't be acceptable. If you're going to be great on the field, be great off the field. If you're going to be great at one thing, be great at everything. Greatness should be a commitment. It's just a philosophy. It's how you live life, period. Okay. So anyway, somebody was mentioning a lot of the URLs. Well, here's a URL you can use that has a lot of stuff on there. drboyceoffers.com, drboyceoffers.com. And we have stuff up there for a lot of stuff. If you want to join my options program, Prime, where we generate income selling stock options, you can do that there. Dr. Boyce Offers. Also, people like Aisha Verzi, who's a great supporter of the Black Business School. She is up there, and she actually is somebody, she put her phone numbers there. You can call Aisha and get support and help on whatever you're trying to do financially, particularly in areas of insurance and investment vehicles, stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff up there, drboyceoffers.com. So feel free to go take a look at that. All right. So let me talk about another quick thing that hit my brain earlier. I was thinking about this. Did anybody here give me a yes or no if you heard about that crazy shutdown of when Microsoft had their little issue with CrowdStrike? Did anybody hear about that? Where Microsoft and CrowdStrike basically went down at the same time because CrowdStrike issued an update that was complete crap, and it completely just annihilated like all these systems all throughout the world. Like 8.5 million machines all went down because CrowdStrike. I don't know if they let the summer intern issue the update. I don't know what happened, but it just made them both look terrible. I know CrowdStrike stock probably took a hit for this. It was bad. It was their Boeing moment. It was their soul plane moment. They just looked really ridiculous, and because you're sitting there thinking, wow, this really messed things up. And I was actually getting on a flight when I was in Europe. I did a tour of Europe this past week, and I mentioned that to you guys yesterday. It was amazing that my daughter planned it all. She was an art major at Columbia, so she enjoys artistic places. So we went to Basel and Brussels, which has the most beautiful town square I've ever seen in my life. Luxembourg, Dubrovnik, where they shot Game of Thrones, and then also we ended in Amsterdam, which was interesting. I mentioned to you all yesterday about the beautiful black lady I saw just standing in the window in her drawers, like in her lingerie, and I was like, why is this lady standing here in the window with no clothes on? And then I realized, I looked up, I saw a red light, and I said, oh my God, I think we're in the red light district, and I'd never seen that before. I'd never seen a person just standing there like that. It was crazy, but here's the thing, though. The red light district is not in Amsterdam. It's not like off, like in a whole nother area. I thought it would be like in this whole other side of town. No, it's like right when you're walking in the town square and you're with your family and your friends. And it's like, oh, just go off into this corner, go make a right here. And you're immediately in it. Right. So when we walked, we had to turn around because we had kids. We had the babies. We're like, oh, no, cover the baby's eyes. They want to see all that. And I mentioned to y'all yesterday that my thought, too, was like, I wonder how that feels. I wonder how that feels to stand in a window half naked, knowing that any stranger with any disease, any nasty person, any sick human being can just pay money and get access to something that I believe money should not be able to buy. I don't judge people for making choices that they want to make. I really don't. You can do whatever you want, be as freaky as you want to be. But I just think that that's so interesting to me because I think that the human body and reproductive organs are kind of sacred. That's what creates life. And you're just giving this to somebody because they had a couple $100 in their pocket. I'm not a fan of that, So I'm, that brings in daddy mode. Like I started thinking, like, where's your father at? Like, why didn't your father give you some wealth? Why didn't he make a plan for you? If somebody makes a plan for you, you don't have to do that. But unless you want to, unless you just enjoy that, which again, I'm not judging, but most people I've seen who do that kind of thing don't really want to do it. They do it because they have to, right? And this is yet another example that I was mentioning earlier about how people that are economically prepared, sometimes people and companies that are economically strong are able to what's the word, exploit those who are not prepared. Now Kevin Brooks says you judge all the time. Stop masking. Oh, Kevin, I hope Kevin ain't no hater. Don't come in here hating, Kevin. I hope Kevin's not no hater. But yeah, but you know what? Some things I think should be judged, but at the same time, I think that you have the right to do whatever you want to do, and I think that there is no there is there. I would say at the end of the day that I don't have a right to judge you, and you don't have a right to judge me, right? And that's what freedom is. Freedom means that you can do whatever you want. And so when it comes to the election, for example, I tell you all the time, do what you want to do. Just don't tell me what to do. I never responded well to that. I don't like that. But anyway, going back to that, so we did the whole European thing this past week, and we're doing Egypt next week. So we do go to Africa and stuff, and so the CrowdStrike thing was interesting because I was actually getting on a plane with KLM, which is connected to Delta, and Delta is I think that they're deeply connected to the CrowdStrike Microsoft stuff. So I was worried that I wouldn't be able to get back because they had to literally handwrite the boarding passes because the system had gone down. Now, what's interesting though is that this made me think about business from a diversification standpoint because here's what is interesting about that CrowdStrike Delta situation. They mentioned that 8.5 million computers went down, right? That 8.5 million went down, and that's literally less than 10% of the total number of computers that are impacted by Microsoft that have Microsoft Windows on it. So Microsoft is everywhere. Microsoft is pretty just ubiquitous, I guess. It's just everywhere. And then there's like this idea where I'm sitting there thinking, wait a minute, so you're telling me that because CrowdStrike issued the wrong update, they had one guy probably that hit the button that sent the wrong file or something, whatever it was, that the global transportation systems went down, medical systems went down, all these things went down because of this one little issue, this one little glitch, this one little problem. That's an issue. That's a big issue. When you don't have a plan, because I remember thinking, what's your plan B? Your plan B is that you're going to start writing boarding passes out by hand at the airport. Your plan B is that Delta has to ground all of its flights all around the world and lose billions of dollars. I mean, you know how many lawsuits are going to come out of this? That's not a healthy way to do business. That's not very smart at all. And then I thought about it and I said, but if you think about it, a lot of us live our lives that way. A lot of us live our lives without a plan B. Think about it. A lot of us, for example, think about it. If you are a single parent living paycheck to paycheck, and let's say you have no savings, no investments, no life insurance, then you have no plan B. Your plan is that everything's going to work out so that and you don't think about plan B until you hit that other state of the world where there is no plan B and everything just collapses. I remember hearing celebrities, I think Eddie Murphy said it one time, and I didn't agree with it, where he said, or maybe it was either Eddie or Will Smith or something, where they said, you don't give yourself a plan B because then you have to succeed. You have to find a way to be successful. And I didn't like that at all because even though I love Will Smith, for example, I didn't, and I think Will said that. I don't agree with that because Will Smith became very successful partly because he happened to know people who helped him to get into the industry. Will Smith is not successful just because he has so much talent, and he has a lot of it. Or Eddie Murphy isn't successful just because he had a lot of talent. There are lots of funny black men in the hood. I think there's a ton of black men and women who are just as funny, just as capable, who could have, really benefited from the same opportunity. They got selected. Somebody picked them, right? And they got an opportunity and they ran with it and became the great legends that they are. But for every one Eddie Murphy, there's 10,000 Eddie Murphys who tried and gave everything and didn't have a plan B, who ended up having their whole lives fall apart because they didn't have anything to fall back on. I think that it's okay to have something to fall back on. I don't think that having a plan B means that you're not preparing for your plan A. That's like saying that anybody who gets health insurance is planning to get sick. No, you're not planning to get sick. You're hoping for the best, but you're preparing for the worst. You can have health insurance and still go to the gym, still eat right. You can have health insurance and still take care of your body. You can have health insurance and still go to the doctor, right? One is not connected to the other. Those are two different realities. So basically, you're preparing for you're hoping for the best, but prepared for the worst. Nothing wrong with that. If you get married and you get a prenup, I've heard people say that a prenup means that you're planning to get a divorce. And I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Most intelligent people I know don't get married expecting to get divorced, but they know that divorce happens. And they're basically saying in the prenup, hey, if it does happen, I want there to be a peaceful separation. I don't want it to be something that destroys both of us. I don't want this to be a painful breakup because I care about you right now, and I know that even if we're not in love anymore, I don't want us to be in a situation that is beneath both of us. The way you break up says as much about you as the way you love each other. Really, it does. It really does. Like that's why you don't really hear me speak negatively about anyone I've ever had a breakup with because when I talk about them, I'm talking about myself. When I talk about her, I'm talking about my own choices. I'm talking about me. Right. So really, I think that just kind of understanding that sometimes things don't work out and really knowing how to peacefully separate is critically important, not just as a wellness strategy, but also as a wealth strategy. Do you know how many billions of dollars get sucked up in divorce court because people go in court acting a fool? People lose their mind and want to fight over every little thing and get petty as hell. And next thing you know, the only people walking away with money are the lawyers. You suffer, he suffers, the kids suffer, the lawyers are happy. The lawyers want you to fight. Do you know how many times when people die and they don't make a plan, they don't have a plan B for their lives, like they don't prepare for the transition to heaven? Do you know how many estate planning companies and estate planning law firms make millions, even billions of dollars from families that either A, don't have a plan and or B, fight each other over what little scraps are left? I talked to an estate planning attorney, Kelly Baker, the other day. I'm gonna bring her into class, and she told me about a story about a time where she saw that someone died, and they had about I want to say $200,000 or $300,000 worth of property, and the kids were fighting so much that by the time it was said and done, they all got a check for $3,000. There was like 5 kids. Each of them got a check for $3,000. The rest of the money went to the lawyers. So understanding these things, like just so I'm kind of merging two concepts here. I'm merging the idea of having a plan B, and then I'm merging the idea of in that plan B, sort of preparing for potential separations or potential changes in the state of the world is a critically important part of wealth building strategies. And if you don't do it properly, then it can be explosive and very damaging to your economics. I don't know if anybody else watches a show called House of the Dragon. House of the Dragon is it's part of the Game of Thrones series, and all House of the Dragon is about is a very strong family. They were called the Targaryens, and they had these dragons, and they had all this wealth, and because they were fighting each other so much and so much infighting and destroying each other in the Civil War, they lost all their power. So if you and I are part of the same team and I'm fighting you and you're fighting me, then the only that I lose and you lose and someone else is going to win. Someone else wins when you and I are fighting, because if you and I could have found a way to work together, we could have been able to remain strong and successful. So I just really think and I know I kind of blended, I kind of mashed some concepts together, right? Number one, it's the plan B. Number 2 is conflict resolution. And number 3 is kind of preparing for the fact that the world changes. I think all these things are kind of connected. It means like, so for example, if I love you, then I prepare for the day that one day I may not love you as much as I do right now. I want to be ready for that. And my love for you means that I'm going to put something in place such that even when I'm not in my right mind anymore and I'm not thinking about you in the way that I did before, I'm going to show my love for you by saying that even if I'm mad at you and can't stand you, I'm still going to give you $100,000 or whatever it is, right? I'm still going to make sure you're good because that's the kind of man that I want to be. At least that's how I thought about my prenup with my wife. My prenup with my wife was basically one where I said, okay, Boyce, it's easy for you to love her. Loving somebody's easy. Being attracted to somebody is very easy. That's very natural. It's easy for you to love her, but it's really hard for you to care about her. Because loving her and caring about her are two different things. Because there may come a time where I may not love her anymore. But if I care about her, I'm going to want her to be okay, even if I don't benefit from that. I can love her easily when she's my woman and she's right next to me and she's treating me well. Yeah, I love you, baby. Right? That's easy to do. But caring about her means like, okay, what happens if she decides that she is moving on and she's in another situation with another man? And we're not together anymore. Well, I still want her to be okay. I still want her to be happy. I still want her to be safe. I don't want bad things to happen to her. So I wanted my prenup to kind of reflect that. Like, look, hey, I'm showing you that I'm committed here. You and the family, this is my responsibility, and I want to try to cover this in as much of a 360 context as I possibly can. And again, I know this is it probably sounds weird, and I don't think most people think of it that way. I think most people think of it kind of differently, and I get that. That's fine. But in my view, preparing your plan Bs is a critically important part of being successful, especially as a Black person, because a lot of Black people get killed, or not killed, but taken out financially and otherwise because they don't have a plan B. So let's go to the simple plan B. Let's talk about that Black job you have. So you get this Black job and you're not using the Black job to build Black wealth. Black wealth is graduation. Black job is like you're still in school. You're still earning your way to graduation, but you graduate when you get to the point where your Black job converts to Black wealth. Just like when sex converts into reproduction, that's a different type of sex, right? It's not just about the pleasure. It's also about the longevity, because when you reproduce and create a child, that child's going to be around for 80, 90 years. So that's a much greater impact on the world than you simply, getting your freak on with somebody. So the Black job is you spinning your wheels, busting your butt, working hard so they can give you enough money just so you can pay your bills. But the Black job converts to Black wealth when you take a percentage of that income and you put that into something that's going to build wealth long term. Why is that important? Well, it's because that Black wealth is part of your plan B. You see, similar, if you think about that CrowdStrike Microsoft thing, what bothered me about that was it was fascinating to me that they were so dependent on Microsoft, and Microsoft had let itself become so dependent on CrowdStrike that one mistake by CrowdStrike has not destroyed, but really significantly harmed the brand of Microsoft. Now, a lot of people are saying, gosh, we don't know if we can trust Microsoft the way we used to because you shut down our entire system, right? But then even the companies that have the systems that got shut down, like Delta, I'm looking at them and thinking, what was your plan B? You didn't have a plan B in place in case Microsoft didn't work out. And all this kind of reflects similar to I think the way a lot of us live our lives. I would ask a question. If you're talking about your family wealth and you're talking about economic security, ask yourself that basic question. What are my plan Bs in place? Right. So a good plan B, economically speaking, might be the following. It might mean it goes wide and deep. And what do I mean by that? Well, by wide, when they talk about things like multiple streams of income, that's incredibly important for a Black person to have. So in addition to that Black job that they could take away from you at any moment, you should try your best to work on ways to develop other streams of income, 2, 3, 4, 5 streams of income, such that in the event that that stream of income gets shut down for whatever reason, you've got other ways to pay your bills outside of that. A good way to have multiple streams of income is from family. Building family builds multiple streams of income very naturally. If I'm married to you and then my sibling is, let's say my siblings living with me and my grown kids are also in the same house and we're all generating income, let's say we all got our little Black jobs. Well, then now we've got 4 streams of income in that house, such that if one stream of income gets shut down, one of us loses our job, we're not going to lose this house. We're not going to lose our place to live. This is why the building of family and the preservation of family is one of the most economically devastating skills that they took away from you. When they destroyed your families, they destroyed $10 trillion worth of black wealth. $10 trillion worth of wealth was destroyed when they destroyed your families, because now everybody's scrambling, trying to do it all by themselves. And that reduces your financial security, which makes you very vulnerable to racist capitalist systems that are designed to exploit and control you. Do you understand what I'm saying? Let me know if you get what I'm saying. I know I'm saying a lot today, but I hope you're following what I'm saying here. Okay. So having multiple streams of income is the first line of defense when it comes to your economic self-defense. Economic self-defense is the most important thing for black people to consider. It's more important than Democrat, Republican stuff. The economic self-defense is everything, because if they control your economics, they control your life. Any person who can take away your ability to eat, who can shut off your income stream, pretty much can tell you what to do. They just like that poor lady that was sitting in Amsterdam, standing in the window in her lingerie. Like I don't know if she wanted to be there or not, but I bet you that she probably didn't have as much financial security as she'd like to have. I doubt that she was a millionaire. Okay, so that's the first thing. Multiple streams of income, critical, essential, should be taught in childhood, should be taught damn near at birth. Second piece of that line of defense is so that's wide, right? Multiple streams of income goes wide. Going deep means that when I got that black job and I'm making that income, no matter what is required, I take some percentage of that income and turn that into wealth. I just, for some percentage of the time, every dollar I make in income, 10 cents of that goes toward savings or investment or the acquisition of real estate. Because these assets that are behind me, that stock that I own, that savings that I have, that business that I'm building, that real estate I've acquired, that gives you financial security. That's what protects you. That allows you to have collateral that you can then use and go to the bank and find some way to go get a loan because you're having a tough time economically. In economics, we call those economic shocks. Economic shocks are basically when something happens that you don't really expect and it kind of messes up your money. Black people are the most vulnerable in this country when it comes to economic shocks. They're always shocking your system. Financial trauma is very, very real, is very, very big. That's why we created the first ever Black financial therapy department in the Black Business School. My wife runs that. She's a therapist and she's very good at what she does. She's also certified in trauma. And she said trauma is the hidden disease that is affecting the Black community on a very high level. And it's not being diagnosed and it's not being treated, and it's causing all kinds of chaos, all kinds of havoc. The reason you can't you can't get along with your relatives is probably connected to trauma. The reason your relationships don't work out is probably connected to trauma. The reason you make certain financial decisions that are not beneficial to you is probably connected to trauma. But nobody wants to hear me because nobody wants to talk about this kind of thing. They'd rather talk about goofy stuff. Okay. But for those that are serious, if you are serious about success and self-preservation and strength and power, if you're serious, then you definitely will go deal with the trauma. You will learn what the healing looks like. What does that look like? How do I heal? How do I identify other people who are trying to heal? How do I use that healing to allow me to do things that are economically and personally beneficial to me, like build wealth? I can go get money with you now because we're good at conflict resolution and we're both good people that know how to get along with each other and we want the best for each other. I can marry you now because you're not crazy and I'm not crazy. Two crazy people can't stay married. Come on now. All you're going to do is hate each other, destroy each other's lives, and jack up the children. That's what you're going to do. Two crazy people getting married. You're going to have some great sex and some horrible fights. That's what you're going to have. It's going to be effing and effing, fighting and effing, right? You don't know what it's going to be. That's all it is. That's what crazy people do in relationships. A lot of y'all have had crazy relationships before. I did too. I'm not going to lie, right? But crazy relationships are not stable. You can't build stable institutions on sheer insanity and just ridiculous, outrageous, outlandish behavior. You can't. That's a type of immaturity as well. That when you mix that trauma with immaturity, you get like shows like Love and Hip Hop, where people get together long enough just to get pregnant, and then they break up right before the baby's born, right? Because everybody wants to just wild out and go crazy all the time, and they never sat down with a therapist who said, that's not necessary. Maybe instead of talking over the other person, you can listen to them. Maybe instead of blowing a gasket and saying something you're going to regret, you can do breathing exercises to calm your crazy ass down for a minute. Maybe instead of acting immediately, you can think about it for a couple of days. Maybe you can learn something called empathy. Maybe empathy will help you, where you can really try to understand where the other person's coming from and then show them that you understand. And then maybe they'll listen to you a little bit more. Maybe you can have the discipline to realize that when you form a family, that how you feel and what you want to do in the moment cannot be the deciding factor in every decision that you make. You have to be able to consider other people. You have to have enough consciousness to be able to operate in a multivariate framework. What does that mean? Multivariate means that there's not one variable that shapes what you do next. It's multiple variables. So instead of me just saying, I'm going to punch my wife in the face because she made me mad and I'm just pissed off right now. Instead of doing that, I say, wait a minute, if I hit my wife, she's going to be upset with me. It's going to disrupt my family. The kids are going to see this. They're not going to like this. That's not the best version of me. I'm going to get locked up, right? Those are multiple variables. I'm considering all the variables instead of just acting in the moment. And the reason that this conversation can be difficult is because I believe that there is a strategic effort in our society to keep the Black community in a very childlike state, to keep your consciousness at a low level where you're operating maybe on the fear frequency or the trauma frequency or on the instant gratification frequency, so that you keep making crazy decisions and horrible mistakes. And then you just say, well, it's because of the white man or whatever, or it's because I'm Black. I'm in jail because I'm Black. Well, you haven't considered all the other reasons that you might be in jail. You really think that that's the only thing that happened to you or the only problem that you have in your life? So I would just say overall, when you're talking about building wealth, I think that operating in a way where you are where you try to be thoughtful, right? Everybody has a brain. I find that using your brain as much as possible goes a very long way. Some of our brains are better than others. Some of us are not as smart as we'd like to be, but I can just tell you there's a big difference between using 10% of your brain and 80%. I learned that actually when I was when I studied mathematics or at University of Kentucky. And I think I've told you all about this, but I think it really taught me a lot. We would get a math problem on Monday that was really hard to do. I would look at the problem and I have no idea how to solve it, right? No idea. But I'd be under pressure because you have to solve this problem by next Monday. You have to turn in your homework. And I would be like, crap, what am I going to do? So what you would do with this problem is you would just stare at it and just look at it. You would research stuff. You would talk to people. Then you go to sleep and you dream about it. And then you get up and you call your friend and talk to him about it. And then you look in books and you find similar problems. And what would happen is slowly but surely throughout the week, I would actually learn more and more and more about this problem. And I may not have the answer, but I would understand it really well. Like it's almost like you're trying to get inside a house and they say, well, you got to get in, and you're looking around the house and you don't see any windows, you don't see any doors that are open, but you learn a lot about the house just by walking around it 25 times and looking at it from the bottom, looking at it from the top, you know what I mean? Like studying the history of the house. So by the time the week is ended, you may not know how to get into the house, but you know a hell of a lot more than you knew before you started. Let me know if you follow what I'm saying. Give me a yes if you get this. So it's the same thing would happen with this math problem. And what was crazy is, lo and behold, every week, like magic, we would always have the answer on Monday. And it was the weirdest thing to me. And you know what that taught me? Here's what that taught me. And I want you to walk away with this final point. This is a point that I want to give you that I'm hoping will help you in terms of doing anything you want to do in your life. I learned that the more you think about something, the more insights you're going to get. That you should never get to the point where you just think you got it all figured out, or that, oh, I already been there, done that. I already know that. No, there's always more you can learn. There's always another angle you can look at it from. There are classes in finance, for example, that I have taught 20 or 30 times. And I don't mind teaching it. If I've taught it 30 times, I don't mind teaching it 31 times, because on that 31st time, I'm going to see something I didn't see the previous 30 times. Do you understand? So if something confuses you or you're trying to figure something else out, just study it. Just be patient and just think about it. And I really think that just the act of thinking and encouragement of thinking, just saying, I don't know, let me think about that for a while. I think that makes us all better people. I think it gives us all better lives. I think it gives us better solutions, because sometimes people just don't think. People think thinking is old fashioned or whatever, that it's stupid. And I'm like, no, you got to think, because there are white folks out here trying to kill you. There are traps. There are capitalists out here trying to make you into a slave. There are people out here that don't want you to be happy. There's people out here that need you to be financially desperate, buried under student loans. They need you to be stuck. They need you to be ignorant. They don't want you to know what's going on. They want you to be distracted. They want you to be so sucked into your day-to-day life that you don't have time to think about other things that are happening all around you. And then next thing you know, your life isn't what you want it to be. So just sit back and think. That's something I want to, so I shared everything else about economic security and all that, but a lot of that really just comes from thinking. Thinking is connected to consciousness. The more you think, the more conscious you'll become. Like I mentioned to you all before, how when they studied like little 5-year-olds in kindergarten, and they found that the kids who had the most insight into the room, who understood the other children the best, were the quiet kids. It was the quiet kid who sat back and just would observe the other kids, and they could tell you everything that was happening in the room. They could tell you who did what, who was friends with who broke up with so and so, broke up. Cindy broke up with Billy, and blah blah, because they're just watching, right? So watch, just watch and think, and then I guarantee you that if you do that, you're going to figure out exactly where you want to position yourself. Like you become the chess master, where you can position yourself as a chess piece and say, okay, this is where I want to be. This is not where I want to be. This is the type of relationship I want to be in. These are the types of business people I want to deal with. This is where I want to be financially. And that's how you end up winning, not just in the game of economics, but remember, I think winning the game of economics is the key to winning the game of life. If you are financially free, you have a massive constraint taken off of your back that therefore allows you to go and truly engage in the world in a way that is going to make you feel powerful and wonderful. It is a beautiful thing if you know how to do this. And then here's the other thing too. If you have kids, give that gift to your kids. Give your kids the gift of financial freedom. Please do that. Don't leave them out here struggling and making them think because you black, you're supposed to go through hell. There's nothing about being black that says you're supposed to struggle. Nothing. Absolutely. Even I grew up believing, I don't know if some of y'all grew up like, I grew up believing that you had to struggle. If you're black, you're supposed to work twice as hard to get half as much. And my grandma used to tell me that. My grandma that's the Panther behind me. Her name's Felicia. That's my grandma. Rest her soul. But she used to tell me, when you're black, you have to work twice as hard to get half as much. And I believe that because it's true if you work for white people. But what my grandma didn't tell me is that I don't have to live in a world where the white man decides what opportunities I get. Right? And it ain't right. Why should you have to work twice as hard to get half as much? I think you should work half as hard and get twice as much. How about that? How about we create that kind of world where you can work half as hard and get twice as much? And that's beyond this. So that's when I stopped worrying about white privilege and start focusing on creating black privilege. We talk all day about white privilege, but we don't talk about the fact that you too have the ability to create black privilege. I think that you should give your children black privilege. Black privilege means, yeah, you're going to be 25 years old with $100,000 in the bank because daddy and mama had a plan for you when you were born, and we were investing small amounts for you when you were a baby. So now you got wealth. You got some black privilege. And anybody who gets mad at you, every hater, because you're going to have haters because you're doing so well. Every successful person has haters. And all the haters that are mad at you because you ain't got to struggle like them, then that just means somebody didn't make a plan for them. And misery loves company. So because my daddy didn't do nothing for me, I'm mad that your daddy did something for you. That's not appropriate. Or because my mama didn't think about the future, that your mama shouldn't have either. That's silly. No, I want all of our kids to have black privilege, and I believe we can manufacture black privilege on a mass scale by being committed to that. And so every time you get tempted to think about white privilege, just know that the same ingredients it takes to create white privilege are similar to the ingredients it takes to create black privilege. And that typically comes through the pathway of wealth. Wealth is the key. Wealth is the key. Wealth is the key. You know what you need to do because you're talking to me every day, and I know wealth pretty well. All right, guys, I'm gonna go. I hope this conversation was beneficial to you. We're going to meet tomorrow morning again at 10 a.m. Eastern. If you want to be invited to the private Zoom, make sure you get on the text list. Text the word morning to 87948. Text morning to 87948. Or if you live in another country, you can just go to drboyceelevate.com and sign up there, drboyceelevate.com. Last but not least, later on today at 2 p.m., I'm going to meet with Asada from Urban Intellectuals, and she's going to talk about their Black Math Genius program, which we're going to blend with our Black Millionaires of Tomorrow program. So we're going to generate kids that are going to be financial geniuses who also are math geniuses, right? So this is how we're going to conquer the world. This is the plan. So I will text you all a link to join the conversation later this afternoon if you want to see what they're doing over there. And that's what we're into right now. So anyway, guys, God bless you. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you all tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. I love you. Take care. Bye-bye.